Welcome everyone to your Urban Affairs Committee. I am Senator Terrell McKinney of Omaha, Nebraska, representing Legislative District 11, and I serve as the committee chair. This committee will take up legislative resolutions in the order posted. This public hearing is your opportunity to be a part of the legislative process and to express your position on the legislative resolution before us. If you are planning to testify, please fill out one of the green testifier sheets that are on the table at the back of the room. Be sure to print clearly and fill it out completely. When it's your turn to come forward to testify, give the testifier sheet to the page or the committee clerk. When you come up to testify, please speak clearly into the microphone and tell us your name and spell your first and last name to ensure we get an accurate record. We will begin today's hearing with the introducer's opening statement, followed by invited testifiers and then other interested testifiers. We will finish with a closing statement by the introducer if they wish to give one. We will be using a 3-minute light system for all testifiers. When you begin your testimony, the light on the table will be green. When the yellow light comes on, you will have 1 minute remaining, and the red light indicates you need to wrap it up for your final thoughts, and we will really be strict on that today because there's a lot of people that would like to talk. Questions from the committee may follow. Also, committee members may come and go during this hearing. This has nothing to do with the importance of the resolution before us. It just is part of the process as senators have other things to do, and I know that there are other hearings going on today. A final few items to facilitate today's hearing. If you have handouts or copies of your testimony, please bring them up with 12 copies to give them to the page. Please silence or turn off your cell phones. Verbal outbursts or applause are not permitted in the hearing room. Such behavior may be cause for you to be asked to leave the hearing. Finally, committee procedures for all committees state that written position comments on a bill to be included in the record must be submitted by 8 a.m. the day of the hearing. The only acceptable methods of submission is via the legislature's website at nebraskalegislature.gov. Written position letters will be included in the official record, but only those testifying in person before the committee will be included in the committee statement. I will now have the committee members with us introduce themselves, starting at my right.
Thank you, Chairman. John Kavanaugh, State Senator from Omaha, District 9, Midtown Omaha.
Victor Roundtree, State Senator from District 3, representing western part of Bellevue, eastern Papillia, and all in between, Suffolk County.
Stan Klaus, District 37, which is Kearney, Shelton, and Gibbon in Buffalo County.
Dan Quick, District 35, Grand Island.
Michaela Kavanaugh, District 6, Omaha, and I am just a guest member of the committee today. I serve on the Appropriations Committee.
Thank you. And also assisting the committee today is Legal Counsel Elsa Knight and Committee Clerk Sally Schultz. Our page for the committee today is Desmond, a junior at Union College majoring in international relations. Thank you, and we will begin today's hearing with myself. Good morning, and welcome to this meeting of the Urban Affairs Committee. My name is Terrell McKinney, Terrell McKinney, and I represent District 11. I'm here to present LR 148, which is an interim study that was originally created to examine any issues under the jurisdiction of the Urban Affairs Committee. We're using LR 48's breadth to discuss building code issues with the Nebraska Department of Punitive Services Work Ethic Camp in McCook, Nebraska. On August 19, 2025, Governor Jim Pillen announced the Work Ethic Camp, otherwise known as WEC, in McCook will be used as a detention facility for people awaiting deportation and other immigration proceedings. The Work Ethic Camp is currently an all-male facility designed for minimum B custody and has 200 beds available. The facility has an operational capacity of 125. Under the proposed changes, the facility will house at least 300 people. The office of my office finds the increase in this capacity concerning, foremost for safety and security. Nebraska has adopted the International Building Codes of 2018. The IBC provides the foundational standards and calculation methods for determining maximum occupancy. Institutional group I3 as identified under IBC includes buildings such as correctional centers, jails, and prisons. Nebraska statute states that the policy of the state of Nebraska and all criminal detention facilities in this state shall conform to these certain minimum standards of construction, maintenance, and operation. Additionally, Nebraska statute states that the following: a correctional system overcrowded emergency shall exist whenever the director certifies that the department inmate population is over 140% of operational capacity. 300 makes it 240% of the 125. And the governor's office sent a letter late yesterday to my office that they would not come today. Something I disagree with. They mentioned some things they disagree with about this hearing, but I ask you all to think about this. You know, prior to me setting this hearing and looking at it from the perspective from an urban affairs committee jurisdictional perspective, the chair of the Judiciary Committee stated that she did not have jurisdiction to look into this, or it was premature. In the governor's letter, though, that is contradicted because their letter states that the Urban Affairs Committee should not be looking at building codes for the WEC and that this should go to Judiciary. So my question would be, who has jurisdiction? And also, if you look at our state's constitution, the legislature has oversight of penal institutions in the state of Nebraska. So their refusal to come, their lack of transparency and accountability, to me, is the most troubling, you know. And I want people to understand as we have this conversation, this isn't just about immigration. We have men that are currently sitting in our Nebraska State Penitentiary that is very overcrowded, that I've visited multiple times in the last month, and it's very overcrowded because of a storm in August that shut down 2 housing units, which has men crammed in spaces that they shouldn't be in and living in inhumane conditions. Some are waiting to go to WEC. And what WEC is for is kind of like a transitional place of housing for individuals that are, you know, getting close to release. So if we remove those individuals from the toxic environment of the Nebraska State Penitentiary or other institutions and not allow them to go to WEC anymore, how's that transition going to happen? How does that make our community safe? They always scream about safety and security of the state, but if you shut down WEC, how does that affect the safety and security of the state if men cannot transition out in the best way possible and not getting the proper programming? Also, on the detention side of this, especially with the ICE thing, to me, this is very troubling for a lot of reasons. You know, when you look at what happened in Omaha and, you know, a lot of individuals were detained by ICE, many of which were not, as stated reasons were, they were not criminals. And that's just a fact. And they're just rounding up people and displacing families in the spirit of, we need to make our community safe. A lot of these people work in our community. They pay taxes. They take care of their families. They're not doing any wrong. And then the governor's office, as identified in the brief last week with the Judiciary Committee, openly sought out the Department of DHS. They sought out the feds for this. The Trump administration did not come specifically to the state of Nebraska and say, hey, we need you to open up one of your facilities. The state of Nebraska, even though we're under an overcrowding crisis, as much as they try not to, you know, say it is, we're under an overcrowding situation and it's only getting worse by the years. And the new prison that shouldn't be built will not be built in time. So it's going to create issues. And then you think about, you know, the individuals that will be housed in the ICE detention facility. They don't know if it's going to be male, or just female, or a mix of both, which creates a lot of issues. You're going to displace people and openly say to the feds, hey, bring detainees to the state of Nebraska. This poses so many concerns from a safety risk of this facility was not even built for 200 people, but we've had 186 plus people there, and now you're going to stick 300 people there. How's that going to work? Then on top of that, Senator Margot Juarez brought up an important question. Are they going to change the signage in WEC to, ensure that individuals who may come from, different spaces of the world, either Latin America, Africa, Haiti, or anywhere else, to make sure that the language is proper to ensure that they understand the rules and regulations of the facility? Who's going to be communicating with them? Are we going to have interpreters out there? Those type of things and those type of questions have not been answered. And that's why I think it is wrong that the governor's office and the Department of Punitive Services Director, Rob Jeffries, is not here today. And I have other thoughts and concerns, but I don't want to take too much time to not allow you guys to speak, but that's it for now. Thank you.
Any questions? Senator Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thank you, Chairman McKinney, for your leadership on this issue, and I really appreciate it. I thought it would be good, as we're sitting here, for folks who are on for the official record. There's a great crowd here, and then the first two rows are a list of reserved seating for folks. And so I thought we maybe would, for the record, establish. So the timeline on this is we all heard about it, and then we asked the Judiciary Committee, a number of us asked the Judiciary Committee to have a hearing. Is that right?
Yes.
And we were told it was premature and the Judiciary Committee didn't have the authority to do it at this point, something along those lines.
Yes.
And then after that, you, I think rightfully asserted the authority and purview of this committee to address this issue as it pertains to the overcrowding issue. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And in the response from the Judiciary Committee, they said that senators have the individual authority to ask questions and seek information. And seems to me like that's what we're doing here.
That's all we're doing here is
Yeah.
trying to seek information to better understand what is going to take place in the state of Nebraska. And they don't seem to be willing to answer those questions unless it's a private briefing.
Yeah. And so we were told that they would be responsive to our questions.
I don't think that's been truthful.
Right. So I can read a few of these, but so you offered and invited the governor's office to come and give testimony, and
Yes.
they said no.
Yep.
And then we have the Nebraska Department of Correction Services also invited and offered an opportunity to be heard here.
Not here.
Not here. Nebraska Department of Administrative Services, which is the folks who have jurisdiction over all the buildings and things like
Right.
that. They're
Didn't
not
come.
here. And then I can't read over the other end there. Is that the fire marshal?
The state fire marshal, who probably should definitely be here, because if something bad happens at WEC because we've overcrowded it, he's going to be the one that's going to be in front of the TV saying what should have been prevented and not happened. So for him not to come, it's very telling.
Yeah. And then we have Mr. Kobernick is here, so I appreciate that. Look forward to hearing from him. And is there anybody else that you would extended an invitation who?
I believe we extended an invitation to McCook officials, but I don't know if they're here or not. But we did extend invitations to them just to get a better understanding from their perspective of their concerns and questions as well.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here and have the opportunity to hear from folks about this. And I really appreciate your leadership in giving folks a forum to educate the public on what's happening here. Thanks.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Senator. I have a couple questions if we could too.
Yes.
You and Senator Entry on the judiciary, you had a meeting the other day. Was there a lot? I guess the biggest thing the question that I have is, I don't think there's a lot of information. I don't think they have a lot of detail. What can you share? What was talked about in that meeting? A little bit, or is that confidential, or is it just not enough information to be had? Because what happens is when there's no information yet
Right.
is provided, then the negativity and misinformation runs rampant. And I hope that's kind of what we're seeing here, but you don't know until information comes out. So could you tell us a little bit about that? Maybe Senator Roundtree.
Senator Roundtree could probably better tell you because I was not in attendance at that meeting. I was actually out of the state and not able to attend, but he did provide me with an update that, they're hoping they're on like a 60-day timeline. They're going to begin transitioning people out of WEC as soon as possible. They're still not sure whether it's going to be a male or a female facility or a mix of both. They don't know where the compensation is going to come from or how that's going to work. The Nebraska Department of Punitive Services plans to operate the facility, and supposedly ICE or the feds are going to have limited appearance there. They're going to expand a new fence at WEC, I guess, for some safety concern. That's about it. It's still unclear. They haven't signed a contract yet, supposedly. Right. They're still in the works of doing that.
Well, that's kind of some of the questions I had, and quite honestly, I was sitting there, what's the purview of the urban affairs and why did it come here? And then, of course, we get the letter yesterday, so I'm hoping that there will be some legal review or questions challenging. If there are challenges, we need to get that resolved.
Well,
from what
when you look at
now.
the jurisdiction of committees, which actually isn't in statute, so the legislature actually do what they want because it's not a statutory guideline on the purview of any committees. But when you look at urban affairs, we're supposed to have the purview of like building codes and building permits and building maintenance, and that falls under this. Also, when you couple that with the state constitution that the legislature should have, oversight of penal institutions in the state of Nebraska, I didn't feel it was wrong because of that specifically. We have constitutional authority of penal institutions.
Okay. That's all I have for now. I guess we can come up with a lot of this other information later.
No problem.
Senator Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Thanks again. Of course, any question always makes me think of another question. To that sort of point about appropriate jurisdiction, in the letter from the governor's office, they think that the Judiciary Committee should be having this hearing. This is my takeaway. It says that the Judiciary Committee would have jurisdiction over this issue, not urban affairs. Does that seem to you like maybe we should send another letter to Judiciary asking for another open hearing?
I guess for sure off of that, we definitely will be sending a letter. I think we should send a letter because according to the governor's office, they are the committee that should be having these hearings. So maybe they'll show up in Judiciary if a hearing ever gets scheduled, if they don't feel as though it's premature, which I don't think it's never been premature. I'm on the Judiciary Committee, so that'd be a fun conversation too.
Yeah. The premature question I think is an interesting one. Is it only premature because nothing bad's happened yet and we should only address things after something bad's happened?
That's what I assume, or they're saying it's not it's premature because although they made an announcement publicly that they're going to use a state institution as an ICE detention facility, they have not signed a contract. So they might feel it's premature because from their perspective, they haven't put pen to paper. But in my opinion, why did you go to the public and make this announcement?
Yeah.
If you didn't have your ducks in a row.
Right. Thank you.
No problem.
Senator Roundtree.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And Mr. Chair, yes, just wanted to say further clarification in our response to Senator Klaus on that particular meeting. When the governor, just for more information, once Senator DeBoer and I were at the private briefing, we informed them that we would be having a press conference directly afterwards. We wanted to record the meeting so we could have good thoughts. We'd be able to recount just what they saw, and also for Senator McKinney to be able to hear what went on in the meeting since he wasn't there, but we weren't allowed to record. So, but we did have the press briefing, so you could go back and see a lot of the answers to your questions. Some of the journalists that are represented here today on that, so good information. But one of the great things on that, when the governor first announced that they were opening the facility, there was a briefing that was given to our Republican members of the Judiciary Committee. You, I, Senator DeBoer sit on that committee, but were not afforded the briefing. So that was, I first became aware of it when I read some of the responses in the newspaper. And a couple of the senators said, when we were briefed, boss, well, we didn't get a briefing. So that was the first delineation. I think sometimes a lot of it might be smoke and mirrors. Senator DeBoer asked some very detailed questions in the private briefing that we received. I took some copious notes. I won't go into all of those here. But one of the things that I asked the executive committee that the governor sent, you've given nothing publicly since you made the announcement. If this is a 100-step process and you are in step 3, and our constituents are asking us, where do we stand? What's going on? I said, why don't you, since they're so great at sending out press releases, on the day that we had the meeting at 1:30, they sent a press release out at that time to say, hey, we are briefing the Judiciary Committee now. So along with that, one of my fellow senators said that this hearing today was political theater. Well, what is political theater? Political theater is sending out a press release right as we get ready to go into the briefing. That's theater. And what is the other theater? Sending out a letter that's saying that this is an illegitimate committee briefing today. So what else have we gotten from the governor's office concerning where we go with McCook? Our people want to know, and they're asking. We didn't come this morning with a briefing to be private, but to open it up so all Nebraskans, hear me now, all Republican, Democrat, Independent, non-affiliated, so that all Nebraskans can get information about what pertains to us in our state. So again, I would challenge the governor's office to continue to push out information to the people that he represents, which is all Nebraskans, and not engage in what I'm gonna call political theater. And for the record, this briefing today is not political theater, but it is taking a legitimate stand to get valid information so that the people of Nebraska can know what's going on with our state and the McCook facility.
Thank you. And I would agree with you 1,000% that this isn't political theater and this is not a political stunt. And contrary to the governor's press release yesterday, this is not a Democrat interim study hearing. This is the people's interim study hearing to get better understanding of what he's planning to do with the work ethic camp. And they will also probably say that we've offered Senator Terrell McKinney a private briefing since he wasn't able to make it there. Honestly, I don't want to go into a private briefing because what is there to hide? Why do I need a private briefing? And my colleagues already briefed me on what they heard. And if I don't think anything's going to change in that meeting, and it'll probably just upset me even more. And I would rather them just show up and answer questions in front of the people. So that's my stance on that.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
May I ask the question?
I don't know. Okay, yes. This is not normal. So, yeah, right.
Okay. Well, I'm more, I'm a process person. And so I just wanted to give you an opportunity to explain to the public, process-wise, Senator Roundtree gave the delineation as to Senator Kavanaugh sending a letter requesting from the Judiciary Committee, then the private briefing, then you put forward this public hearing, and they refused to come at the 11th hour, which did not give you enough time to go through any additional processes because today's hearing was set with public notice. But you do have further process. We have further authority beyond this. If the Judiciary Committee continues to refuse to take up having a public briefing on this, you have the option, or the committee has the option of going to the exec board for subpoena power. And I just wanted to state that, and maybe if you want to speak to it or not, that you can compel them. We, as the legislature, have the authority to compel them to come and answer our questions publicly.
That is true. Outside of this, I think the next step is to try to get the Judiciary Committee to get them in front of the committee. If that doesn't work, then we go to the executive board and ask the executive board to compel them in front of the senators. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm hopeful that I try to be optimistic, although I shouldn't be sometimes, but I try to, hopefully they'll, get away from this mindset of we could do what we want and you just got to deal with it. And we don't have to answer to you and those type of things. So I'm hopeful that one of these days we'll hear something, but if not, there is a legislative session in January and there could be a lot of bills introduced that might get them in front of the hearing, the senators too. So we'll see.
And as a co-equal branch, the letter says that you don't have the oversight authority, but every single member of the Legislative Council, which is every single member of the legislature,
Exactly.
has oversight authority. So
Right. So I don't know who's giving them legal guidance there, but it is what it is.
they might need new lawyers.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you. Well, we had invited some people to come to this hearing today. First, is there anyone here on behalf of the governor's office? Just to double check. All right. Next, is there anyone here from the Nebraska Department of Punitive Services? To double check. All right. Is there anybody here from the Nebraska Department of Services? No. Is there anybody here from the city of McCook in official capacity? Is there anyone here from the Office of the Inspector General of Nebraska Correctional Services? Come up. Thank you, Doug.
All right, thank you, Senator McKinney, and members of the Urban Affairs Committee. My name is Doug Kobernick, spelled Koebernick, and I work for the legislature as the Inspector General of Corrections. I want to thank you for the invitation to share information regarding the correctional facility currently known as the Work Ethic Camp. 2 weeks ago, I provided a memo to the legislature regarding the Work Ethic Camp, which is usually referred to as WEC. The purpose of that memo is to provide background information on that facility. I will provide you with a quick refresher regarding the contents of that memo and then some additional thoughts. The Work Ethic Camp was created due to the passage of legislation back in 1997, and it was eventually sited just north of McCook, and it was actually run by probation, and it was to be for people that were sentenced there, but they're kind of on this different level between probation and incarceration. Over the years, after that, the facility wasn't used as much as it should have been. It was under capacity, and there was different legislative attempts that took place over the years. And eventually in 2009, it was transferred over to the Department of Corrections to be used for incarcerated individuals. There were some exceptions as far as who could be sent there. It was all based on their offense. Interesting enough, WEC is the only state correctional facility mentioned in state law, although by purpose and not by name. And it lays out the intent of the use of the facility, although that current language is somewhat dated and does not reflect the current practice. It's also the only state correctional facility for which the Department of Correctional Services is required to provide an annual report. Currently, individuals stay there for about 6 months or so to either complete programming or to wait to move to a community corrections center. There have been a variety of programs provided at the facility over the years, including substance use treatment and domestic violence at the present time. Educational classes are provided, including some that focus on vocational education. And there are typically about 20 men who participate in work crews that do work for state agencies and surrounding communities. In the recent past, I've recommended that the legislature consider funding the construction of additional space for classrooms and other indoor space, such as recreational areas and job training, to make it a more complete facility so that it has a larger purpose in preparing people for reentry. During a recent visit to WEC with Senator Boslin and Senator DeWar, a number of men expressed their views that they are basically just waiting at the facility and they wish there was more to do to assist them with preparing them for their eventual transition to the community. They genuinely appreciated the efforts of the warden and his team and the calmness of the facility, but they had ideas on how to make it better. As far as the structure, and that's why I'm here, I guess, is to lay out how the facility is structured. There's two main buildings. There's an administrative building. That's the first one you enter. It has the administrative offices, a kitchen, cafeteria that doubles as visitation space, a medical area, and then some other classrooms and offices. The second building is across the yard, and I have some pictures that I can walk you through after this, and that is the housing unit. Over time, the number of men housed at WEC has increased as demand for bed space rose within the correctional system. It was originally designed for 100 people, and it currently houses 200 people. Though right now, that because of the population going down, as they've sought to move people out, it's at probably about 155. So it was designed to hold 100 beds, but the housing unit consists of 5 separate dormitory-style galleries. And so you have 3 units with 50 people, 50 beds in them, and then 2 other ones that have 24 and 26 beds in them. The building is quite crowded. There's a couple of day room spaces where people can come out and gather. There's a library, and then the restroom facilities in there and some office space. And I don't know, do you want me to keep going? I got a red light.
You can wrap up soon.
Okay. Let's see, what's next? I'll just go to this. Regarding the future of WEC, as the Inspector General, I have 2 immediate concerns. First, where will the men who have been at WEC or would have typically gone there in the future reside? And then the second one is, can the programs provided at WEC during this key transitional phase for some men be replicated at another facility? I would anticipate as the population goes down at WEC and the housing reopens at the state penitentiary, you'll see the movement there. And that's where the people will go, either to the state penitentiary or to some community correction centers as paroles are granted in those facilities. And then as far as replicating the programming and other experiences provided at WEC for this specific custody, I think there's going to be a challenge for the department to find both the space and the time to replicate those efforts. It's a very complicated process right now. We don't know a lot. And that's basically a quick summary of the work ethic camp. I did provide in your handout some pictures. The first page has a couple aerial views of the facility, so you can see the 2 big buildings there. There's a smaller building that has like laundry and some other canteen items and storage in there. So that's on the top here, and then kind of have that aerial view, and you can see how big the yard is where they go out there. They have like a walking track. They have handball courts, weights. On the second page, there are a couple pictures from the first building. The top one is the cafeteria, which doubles as the visitation space. And then I have a picture of a classroom. There's a couple multi-purpose type classrooms and then other classrooms in that building. The third page is actually, there's a picture of the housing unit on the outside there as you walk across the yard. And then I have the middle 2 pictures are actually the dorm units within those. And then the bottom one is the day room space where there's some tables and there's microwave, ice machine, things like that. And then the last page are a couple of pictures of the exterior yard. I thought those would at least give you some insight if you haven't been out there as far as what the facility looks like. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the committee? Senator Klaus?
Yes, thank you, Senator McKinney. So in looking at this facility, and you said that you haven't gotten a lot of information as far as how it's going to be configured or anything, but it looks like there's a lot of space there for it to be reconfigured, whatever the future plan might be. Is that a fair statement? That
There's a lot of land there. That yard's rather large, but then to the south of the facility, there's about 40 acres of state-owned land. If they were to bring in some temporary housing or buildings or something like that, I mean, that would be one way to expand the capacity, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Senator Roundtree?
Yes, Mr. Coburn, thanks for your testimony. Thanks for the pictures and so forth. What modifications would be needed, in your perspective, to convert the classrooms to housing? I mean, are there like bathrooms nearby? Do we have drop ceilings, anything of that nature? what do you think would be needed to convert those to housing?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because in the administrative building, there are those multi-purpose rooms in those classrooms. The issue that I would put out there is if you're going to put like bunk beds like we have in the other units there, you don't have any access to showers, and it's very minimal as far as the number of toilets even available in that building. So that's an issue. I would think there'd be some security issues there too, because you can just walk out the front door. If you could get to that front door, you can just walk out. There's no fencing that would keep you if you went. I hadn't thought about that part, but so that would be a challenge. It would be, I'm not sure. I mean, they haven't shared anything with us other than I saw the letter where Mr. Zoller talked about using those multi-purpose rooms, but I think it would definitely be a challenge.
Thank you. And first, I would like to announce that Senator DeBoer has arrived and joined the hearing. Senator Klaus?
First of all, is that, I don't know, so that's okay for other senators sitting on the committee?
Yes, according to my staff.
Okay.
Yep.
But I'll go back to my question then. So what you've got is a large area and no idea what's going to be coming. So it's conceivable this thing may not be open for some time while they construct facilities to make it, you know, if it's fenced in, or 40 acres to build more property. So you're not having 10 homes, but buildings. So this could be a long process.
That's safe to say. I mean, they're talking about a shorter timeline, but depending on how they decide to, I mean, if they start out with just having 200 people there, but they want to expand another 100 or more, I mean, and then go into that other land.
So it's safe to say that that's part of the negotiations going on with the federal government and who's going to pay for it, timeline, all those other things.
I would think that would be part of it, yes, for sure.
Thank you. Senator Kavanaugh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here, Mr. Kovanek, and thanks for these pictures. I got just a few questions. One of them, you know, you kind of, in the interest of time, you gave us this thing, but you talked about the staffing at the facility. So if you want, we could talk about that for just a minute. So there's, in the recent months, they've had between 8 and 10 vacancies. One position's been most difficult to fill is behavioral health position. As of August 13th, 2025, there were 98 positions at the facility. 9 of these were vacant, but only 3 were security positions. During a recent visit there, it was shared by staff that finding people in the security position is not difficult. So 98, so it's about 10% understaffed.
Yeah, and I suppose it depends on how you look at it too. You know, if you focus in on the security side, that might be a different number. But yeah, looking back, I went back and looked over time. We have all the data on all the facilities as far as their vacancies each month, and that's what they typically run. And the primary vacancies, like you indicated there from my written testimony, was there's 3 behavioral health positions that were vacant. Those have always been very difficult to fill out there. Food service workers, I believe there's 2 vacancies right now for those. Those have been difficult to fill. And then the 3 security ones. But they did indicate, like I said in there, that they have not had any issues really hiring the security in positions, those corporals and sergeants and such.
So there's a distinction. So you talked about it was designed for 100, now it houses 200. So there's a distinction in our penal system of design capacity, occupational capacity, or operational capacity. Is there a distinction between occupational and operational, or is that a typo in the governor's letter?
Yeah, I've never heard occupational capacity.
So in their letter, they say that the system-wide operational capacity is at 115%. And then they say the facilities are nowhere near the 140% occupational capacity. So that's probably just a typo. But what's the distinction between design capacity and operational capacity?
Design capacity is basically if you have a prison that's built like this one, it's built for 100 people. It was designed to hold 100 people. And then if you put 200 people in it, then you're operating at 200% of the design capacity. Operational capacity is defined in state statute, and I can't recall the definition right now, but it's a lower level.
It's lower than design capacity?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
You can fit more people in at your operational capacity than design capacity.
Okay, so that'd be a higher.
Possibly. I'll have to think about this.
Okay. So
I'll get back to you with the definition.
well, so just for this, so this building was designed for 100 people. It's housing 150. which means that it is above its design capacity.
Yeah, it would be at 150% of design capacity right now.
But it is maybe within its operational capacity.
I believe the department says the operational capacity for WEC is 125. So
Okay.
it would be above the
So,
operational
yeah.
capacity as well.
And the operational capacity would presumably include people who work there. In having more people work there allows you to increase the operational capacity.
It's a whole lot of different factors that go into it, but it's actually defined in state law too. There's different definitions of operational capacity across the country depending on your state.
Gotcha. So my other question is, and apparently we don't know who's going to be housed there, but looking at this, how would you house men, women, children separately, safely in these open bunk spaces?
I've given that some thought, and I think at the way that the housing unit is structured, and Senator Boslin was just there, so she might have some thoughts too, but you have two sides of it. So there would probably be a way to control the flow from one side to the other and have one population here and one population on the other side. But I'm totally speculating.
For the sleeping.
For the sleeping.
And we're talking about if you're increasing the use, you're also using the common spaces for sleeping.
Yeah, if you were to use some of those classrooms or multi-purpose rooms in the administrative building, then that's in a separate building. Yeah, you would, as far as like sharing cafeteria space or yard space, they would have to figure out if they wanted to keep those populations separate, how they would do that. I don't know how they, haven't given that any thought. It probably depends on the number of each sex that are there.
Would it be best practices in a carceral facility to keep children and adults separate?
What I've been told or what we've learned is that there won't be children there. That's what we were told when we were out at WEC.
Would it be best practices to keep men and women separate?
WEC originally housed both men and women. So there is some precedent to that. Community correction centers hold both men and women. So it's possible.
In the same spaces?
Community Correction Center Lincoln and previously the Community Correction Center Omaha were all in the same building. And Senator Roundtree and I were at Community Correction Center Omaha, and there's a hallway that goes down where they had the women's unit, and the men were within, their hallway was 15, 20 feet away. So they were in the same building. And they used the same cafeteria space, visitation space.
Okay. At the same time?
I believe so.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Senator Klaus and then Senator Roundtree.
Okay, thank you. Senator McKinney. So some of that's hypothetical too. We don't even know if kids will be there. We really don't have all that information. So
Correct.
We're trying to talk about spaces and we don't even know what the population or census is going to be. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And you may or may not, this might be outside your scope. Have you talked to the folks from McCook?
As far
As
as,
the city folks,
No.
leadership, and okay, I've talked to some of them, and they have the same questions. There's just so much we don't know at this point. And then I was looking at the online comments, the 230 some. There's only 3 or 4 from McCook. Everything by far. I mean, it wasn't even close. The majority was Lincoln and Omaha. We had maybe 3 or 4 from Kearney, 3 or 4 from North Platte. Just not a lot of online comments from that. And I've talked to a lot of people out in our area. So it's just, there's a lot of concern. Didn't mention that, but there's just so many questions and no answers. And so some of the stuff we're dealing with in my mind is hypothetical until we know exactly what we're dealing with. I don't know when that's going to be. And that's where I come back to my earlier point. Some of that lack of information becomes misinformation, which becomes rumors, which becomes chaos. And so I'm hoping we can start getting some answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Roundtree.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Corbin, yes, that's a couple of things. I just want to address your comment there. That's why I asked the governor's office to push information out so that you eliminate all of the conjecture, rumors, and things of that nature. Information and good, solid, truthful information is powerful. So with that, we also talked about whether there's an immigration judge just out in the area. That's something that I know we don't know. But looking at the facility, will there be space for an immigration courtroom and also spaces for members or detainees to have private meetings with their legal counsel? That's an important part of our due process.
I believe when we were out there, Senator Bosin and Senator Bohr both asked about that. And I think there's some of those classrooms that they use now, they won't be using in the future. So I would anticipate that they would convert some of that space to things like that for those uses. But right now there isn't like an attorney room or a private visitation room that I'm aware of. I've been out there a number of times. My office usually goes out there at least twice a year to talk to the staff, talk to the warden, talk to the incarcerated individuals and get a better understanding of what's going on out there.
Thank you. Senator John Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks, Mr. Kobenek again. And, just to Senator Klaus's point, I do think it's really important to get information, which is why it's really great that you're here to answer our questions. And it would be nice if some of these other folks would have been here to answer some of these other questions so we don't have as much conjecture. But I'm trying to focus on the things that I think you're empowered to answer. So one of my questions was about the state of Nebraska is basically on the hook to pay for medical care for the folks that are housed in this facility. Are we going to have to provide medical care for the folks who would be housed there under an ICE detention?
Again, I think like Senator Klaus said, that's probably, we have to wait to see the contract and everything to see how that's all structured. But I would anticipate that we would have that responsibility. There are medical staff out there right now.
Well, I guess my question is not whether there's going to be a contract, whether there's somebody housed in our facilities, regardless of the contract, if it's our obligation. There are currently people housed in some state facilities that are not under commitment by the state of Nebraska. We have.
Anybody who's incarcerated under the state, we have that responsibility. And then we have county safekeepers that come in and they haven't been committed to the Department of Corrections after their trial. But there's an agreement with the counties that they share that responsibility. The counties will cover the cost. So I don't know how it will look like with the federal government, but I would anticipate that we would have that we'd have to fill that need. I mean, people will need medical treatment.
And under a contractual relationship, it still would remain a state facility. Would it be your understanding that the Inspector General would still have authority to come and observe the conditions there?
That's a very good question, and I don't have the answer to that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Quick.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. My question is for the inmates out there now, do they work within the community? I mean, are there jobs outside of, can they go out and work in the community and other jobs? And can you explain how that actually works? Is there a contract signed or anything like that? Or how does that work?
Yeah, currently they have these work crews that go out and they usually work for state agencies like Game and Parks or the Department of Transportation that go out and clean up some state parks or do different things like that. Or they might do some work for local communities. I believe I read in the paper where some local city, they went and cleaned their cemetery, things like that. So they get paid by the state at a daily rate, like a $1 or $2 a day to do that and everything. But so about 20 of the 200 or so people would be out doing that. Previously, when it was first open, the whole population would go out and do that. So there was more that were out there doing that, and it was on a regular basis because it was part of that program when it was run by probation. But now it's just that. So they don't actually have actual, jobs that they're working for a business or anything in the community. They don't have that set up.
Yeah, another question. It just fell out of my head, so I'm sorry. I'll think of it now.
Senator Klaus.
Yes, thank you, Senator McKinney. We have some facilities around the state that are private owned for the reentry programs that are different than this. You ever dealt much with those? Now, granted, they're out there in the workforce. They're not, they're working in the community and various because they're about ready to complete their term. Is that something you would see like the WEC folks folks moving into those types of facilities that are around the state. A lot of people don't know. And my point is, dealt with this a number of years ago, and the community was in an uproar because they were going to put one of these in our community. And we had no issues because it's a reentry. They don't want to cause problems. They want to get back in the workforce. They've served their term. They know if they screw up, they're going back to the big house. And is that kind of where we're at with the WEC folks, that we can maybe distribute them to around some of these other organizations around the state or even in other states?
Yeah, since this was announced, there's probably about 40 men at WEC that have been moved to a different facility. And I think those were mostly all the community corrections centers, the one in Lincoln and one in Omaha. But also I believe some people have been placed on parole that were there too. So when you get placed, typically you go to WEC as the final stage before you would go to the community corrections center, where you would do that work release opportunity and everything. Once you get paroled, then you can go out in the community to like a transitional facility such as Kearney's Village in your community, where you would live and reside and work in the community. So I would guess that's most of those people at WEC, that's where they're going to be going, is out to the community corrections center, or they're going to get paroled, or they're going to jam out and then go back to their home
Right, to
community.
speed up that process, basically.
Yeah, I think they're probably at the top of the list to move to those places and get paroled right now.
Thank you. Senator Quick?
Yeah, thank you. I remember my question now, and it had to do with the programming as well. Is there, I'm sure it's specific for each individual, but is there so many hours of programming that they have to complete, or is it, I suppose it's individualized?
Yeah, the programming is all based on individual needs. They get an assessment and they figure out like what they actually need. Right now, like I said before, out of the work ethic camp, they provide substance use treatment. There's an intensive outpatient program and then an outpatient program. So a lot of people are going there to do those before they go to community corrections or get paroled. Then they have also recently started up a domestic violence programming there that runs about 30 weeks or so. They've taken steps because they know that they might be ending their stay there to speed up those programs, offer them a little bit more frequently each week so that they can complete those programs before WEC would transition to this other use.
Senator Kavanaugh?
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks, Mr. Koenig. Questions always make me think of other questions. So all of these programs you're talking about, that everything, so they're accelerating the way that somebody's going through a program to get them. Does that mean that these aren't being offered at other places? Is WEC the only place people can get certain programming?
No, domestic violence has been, this is something that our office really pushed over the last few years, was to get that back into the correctional system because they hadn't been providing it. They took a lot of steps to implement that, and it's at several facilities now. The substance use treatment programs are at other facilities as well. So when the concern of our office, my office, is, how do we replicate that in these other facilities so that when not just the people who are at Cook now and where they're going to go, because what's going to happen is you had that population that was going to go there in the future. So we need to make sure that we expand those programming opportunities in these other facilities to meet those needs so that they can move forward.
So yeah, I guess the question is, are we losing the total number of spots for drug treatment, for domestic violence treatment, meaning that are some people going to jam out without completing the type of rehabilitation that we want them to get?
It's too early to say on that, because we'd have to give the department an opportunity to step up their efforts. And I think, that's going to be a challenge for them because of space and time and people and everything. But I would anticipate that they will do that because they know that there's a need out there and everything. So, but they need the staffing to do that. They need the space. You've been to the penitentiary. There's not a lot of extra space around that's unused.
So all of those things, are those going to be additional costs that are going to be borne by the Department of Corrections to add those services at other places?
There probably would be some cost, but you're also, I don't know if they can move some of those positions from McCook to the other facilities, like if they want to transfer those substance abuse counseling positions to a different facility. They're already paying for that. I would anticipate that they're not going to provide that service if this facility has a change in its operation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Claus?
Just one last kind of question, comment. So out of all this discussion that we've had, talking about space and places for them to meet with their legal counsel, whatever, those all fall under federal regulations. So no matter what they do, they're gonna have to provide separate meeting space, all that's under federal guidelines that will be followed for all the space requirements up to and including classrooms and all those rehabilitation things in meeting spaces for their consultants.
I talked to somebody who worked in the department when a facility previously at Hastings had been converted to an ICE detention center. And they said that there were new federal guidelines that they would have to follow and change how they did things there. I would guess that the same thing will apply now that was quite a long time ago. There's also, the department has to meet the accreditation standards of the American Correctional Association. And they have these accreditation standards as far as how much space each person has, how many bathrooms per person or toilets per person, how many showers per person, that kind of stuff in there. So the department that would be separate from any federal ones, so that if they're going to expand where they put people, they'll have to meet those ACA standards as well. So there's probably, like, you have your state, you have your ACA and your federal, some kind of mix.
So those are more than guidelines, they're regulations to be accredited.
To get accredited, correct? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Quick?
Yeah, and on that, so what happens if, say that if those guidelines get out of balance and there's this, what's the fix for that?
If they don't meet a standard, they usually get a waiver from the American Correctional Association. That's how it typically works. Right now, there's different cell space, and like in the state penitentiary, that doesn't meet the standards. But if they have a certain score, because they have a whole lot of factors in that accreditation, they can still pass the accreditation process and be accredited by the ACA. So a lot of times they'll get a waiver, or you just didn't meet that standard, but the total score would still allow them to be accredited.
Do they ever get like a notification, you have to have this corrected within so many months or whatever, days, depending on what it would be?
Yeah, I think, they'll come back. They come back every 3 years. And then they also do internal ones the other years in between. So they have to report to the ACA what they've done. So there's a give and take and a communication between the department and the ACA as far as what they're doing to meet those standards, if they identified some gaps or some ones that they weren't meeting.
You probably don't know the answer to this, but as far as like building codes and fire codes within that, I'm sure they have to follow all of those for a number of people that are in the facility and different areas where they'd have to have fire extinguishers or those type of things.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I would anticipate that they would. I do know, I believe at the reception treatment center where they do the intake for the males coming into the system, when that has been overcrowded in the past and people are basically sleeping on the floor in these portable beds, the fire marshal has had to come in and say how many they could put in the housing units on the floor.
Thank you. I got one final question. How does moving these individuals from WAC, affect the current overcrowding situation, especially at the state pen?
And that's going to be the challenge. I mean, the system's operating at about 140% or 141% of design capacity right now. When you take, I've had a cold and allergies. When you take 100 beds out of the equation, you're going to bump that design capacity measurement up. The challenge for the department will be, where do you put those people in the future as they're coming through? Like right now at the reception and treatment center on the intake side, that population's gone up. You have guys sleeping on those cots on the floor again, which they had done a really good job of getting away from. But once the housing units are reopened at the state penitentiary, that would create some room at least, but it's that ongoing group of where do you put those and everything as far, and then we need paroles granted to keep pace too with what they're doing right now.
And part of my concern with that is I've visited NSP recently a couple of times with Senator Spivey, and housing units 7 and 8 are shut down because of the storm, and housing unit 1 hasn't been operated because of flooding and other concerns for a long time. Then they reconverted 6A, which was actually not being used, because of health concerns due to mold and other things that they moved the people from 7 and 8 to, who are now complaining of safety concerns, especially with the showers. When I was there, a man that slipped and fell and cracked his head open and has stitches over his head. So my concern is, first, the department argued that 6A would be temporary housing until 7 and 8 get back open. But if they move the people from WEC to 6A, to me, that's not going to be temporary housing. And 6A already has all these concerns. They put sinks in that you can't even drink out of because of bad filtration and bad water quality. The air quality in the place is bad. They're complaining of mold and other things like that. So and then also there were men coming up to me saying, man, I was expecting to go to WEC. I'm getting close to my 2-year eligibility date or lower, and I was about to go out the WEC, and now I can't. Now I'm not going to be able to go no more. How's that going to affect me getting out of this place? Because I don't want to be in NSP anymore because of all the problems due to overcrowding.
Those are really good questions that I have posed to the department as well. And I've asked to have a meeting with them to discuss those. We haven't set that up yet, but when I have the opportunity to sit down with them, those are all the same ones that I've asked them and a few more. So I don't know the answer right now. Only they know the answer.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you for coming and participating. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, is there anybody here from the Office of the State Fire Marshal? Nope. Is there anyone here from the ACLU Nebraska? How you doing?
Fine.
Spike.
Good morning, Chair McKinney and members of the committee. My name is Spike Eichholt, SPIKEEICKHOLT. I'm appearing on behalf of the ACLU Nebraska and thank the chair for inviting us to testify on the subject. You're getting a copy of my testimony and then a handout of, or a printout of the average daily population for the Department of Corrections that I printed out yesterday, just that I might refer to. Just to be clear, the ACLU of Nebraska, we are opposed to an ICE detainment camp being opened up in the state. But one thing I want to talk about very basically with this committee and with the legislature and really anyone that's watching is this. For 10 years, this legislature in this state has debated the issue and what to do about prison overcrowding. And the numbers have been consistent. The trend is up. In 2015 and then again in 2021, this state worked with national experts to try to figure out how to get a hold of, how to get a handle of our burgeoning prison population. In 2015, it was the Council for State Governments, and they implemented a partial response to the overcrowding problem in an attempt to avoid having to make a new prison system or make new prison facility. And that was the passage of LB 605, which did help slow down the increase in the state prison population. What it really did, anecdotally, I'll just tell you, is it increased a lot of the jail populations around the state. But because the numbers kept trending upwards, the state then again worked with the council, the CJI group, can't remember what the anecdote is for, Criminal Justice Institute, to sort of look at our population trends, our sentencing trends, and try to figure out a response or an alternative response to making a new prison. And with the passage of LB 50 in 2023, the legislature did do a partial response dealing with sentencing reform, mitigation of some penalties, providing for an avoidance of flat sentences and addressing recidivist rates and those other things that the state looked at with experts. But the problem still remained, and that is the projected population required the state to make a new prison. And that's what you did, the legislature did last year in the budget, committed to a 1,500 bed institution to be made near Lincoln. That's what you're paying for, $370 million to start. So the decision the governor has made is to essentially take off one of the prisons offline, to close it down for state purposes. Senator McKinney tried to address the issue of what's going to happen with the state penitentiary if we make the new prison. I think he even introduced a bill to decommission it, to close it down. It was opposed because the explanation from the administration and from the body was, we need the space. So one fundamental question we would urge this committee to ask is, why are we committing to an investment of a new prison system while giving up a current one? A second wave of questions, I was just sitting here listening to testimony, is if we have the space at the work ethic camp, 40 extra acres, easily convertible, the administration says we're working on it now, no problem. Why was that not proposed during the budget debate? I'm out of timelines or any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you. Is there any questions from the committee? Senator John Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks for being here, Mr. Eicholt. Nice to see you. I appreciate this, the census screen. You said this is from yesterday?
Yeah, it's dated there when I printed it off yesterday morning.
Okay. So my read is that the total population of our system is 5,800 and the operational capacity is about 5,075.
That's correct.
So it's a little less than 800 over capacity.
Over operational capacity.
And you heard me ask Mr. Kobenek about the distinction between design capacity and operational capacity.
Right.
Could you elaborate on that?
I could. So this state, back in 2003, I think the legislature created and the governor signed, then Governor Johann signed the Overcrowding Act. That was done 20 some years ago because even back then the numbers were trending up. So we needed to have some sort of a plan for it to do it. And at the time, the law was written that if there is 140% of design capacity for the entire institution, then the governor may declare an emergency. And what that emergency did is it would trigger accelerated parole review by the parole board. And then when the numbers got down to 125% of design capacity, the emergency is done. When the legislature passed LB 605 in 2015, there was a companion bill, LB 598, that was done by Senator Shoemaker and a number of other senators. And that required the governor to declare an emergency by July 1, 2020, if the numbers trended up to 140% of design capacity. And that's what happened. On July 1, 2020, we reached 140%. The governor declared an emergency, and we stayed there until September 3rd, 2025, because last year, the legislature in LB 150 passed a bill to change the phrase design capacity to operational capacity, keeping it at 140% of operational capacity. The difference is, as I understand it, and I think Mr. Kobernick explained, is that I have a car, it's a Honda, it's designed to seat 4 people, but I could probably operate with 5 or 6 people in it, right? And that's kind of the sort of crude way of looking at design versus operational capacity. To the credit of the administration and the people working in the Department of Corrections, they can handle some populations above the design capacity. And that's what it is. So when the governor office sent that letter last night or earlier today, boasting about how they're not beyond the emergency range, that's technically true. Only because the definition of what it means to be an overcapacity was changed.
And just to put a point on it, changing the definition doesn't increase the number of beds or the amount of space or the square footage. It didn't do anything like that. It just changed what we defined as the emergency level.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Spike. And I do remember that hearing, and I'm trying to find the document, but if I remember right, even under that change, WEC was still one of the facilities that was overcrowded still, even with that change.
All right.
I'm almost sure I remember that right. I think I have either a physical copy or I'm trying to find it on my laptop. But I do remember WEC was one of the facilities, even with the change that happened, it was overcrowded based on even the new definition.
That's right. Yeah.
So
if you look at the handout, it's 147% of operational capacity yesterday.
So even adding 300 people makes it worse. So to me, the governor's office is again wrong. So thank you. Any other questions? Senator Roundtree?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Spike, I was looking at our letter on page 4. I want to ask you to expound just a little bit more on the second paragraph. Says, how will WEC be converted to accommodate housing the worst of the worst as Christy Noam claims what it would be used for. There's been a minimum security prison, and conversation we've had from our governor's office from worst of the worst to maybe minimum security type.
That's right. I mean, that's a policy decision. It's a question that needs to be answered, because even in the dual press announcement of the governor's office and Department of Homeland Security, there were some inconsistencies about who is going to be housed there. The current facility is made for committed offenders, committed felony offenders who've been determined to be minimum security risk. And that's done by a process of when people are committed to the department, they go to the reception and treatment center, they are evaluated, their sentence is considered, their life history is considered, and then they are placed somewhere in the facility. And we don't have the written agreement. We don't know where the expectation is. We only have a claim from a federal official that says the work ethic camp's going to be converted to house the worst of the worst. And that's a legitimate question, how that's going to work under the current structure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Thank you, Spike. Okay, is there anyone else from the public that would like to come up and testify?
Can I make a suggestion?
Senator Kavanaugh?
Can we take off the front and have folks who want to testify come and sit, and we do the kind of side
Yeah.
to side?
If you want to testify, come sit in the front rows. Yeah, and if you're not, I said after they sit down. Oh, okay. I have a couple announcements. One, if you're not testifying, you're welcome to go to the overflow room to allow for people that do wish to testify to come up. Also, once you testify, I would hope that you would go to the overflow room to allow for people who do wish to testify to come in. And as the front rows clear, if you're going to testify, just move forward. With that, I welcome our testifier. And you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, Senator McKinney and senators here. I will take my crown off as to not be confused with theatrics. My name is Holly Burns, HOLLYBURNS. I am the granddaughter of Jose Flores Arciaga and Margarita Martinez Arciaga. They were ranchers and farmers from Mitchell, Nebraska. My roots have run long here in Nebraska. I've always been proud to be a Cornhusker. I've always been proud to say that it was my grandfather's hands, love, and labor that built a beautiful legacy for my family. Most farmers and ranchers will tell you that you have to have plans. You can't just go and decide that spring's coming, you're going to go throw some seeds out there and hope and pray that you get good yields and profits. They also will tell you that you cannot plant the same crops in the same fields because we will not have yields. This facility is in opposition to Nebraska. It is not being planned well. I'm a mental health therapist who specializes in trauma. We know by research that Nebraska has paid for that locking children up is traumatizing and sets them up for a life of being at risk of further harm. Specifically, being involved in a criminal justice system. This is a part of your decision to plan and to plan well. What happens if we have pregnant women that need to breastfeed in those facilities? Worst of the worst, do they look like me? Because we know now that anybody that looks like me, who may dress like me, and works a field can be detained. My family are not immigrants. We were Tejanos and Nuevo Mexicanos. My grandmother was born in Fredericksburg, Texas in 1912. My grandfather was born in Carlsbad, New Mexico in 1906. If I am detained and put in that process and held, where will you deport me to? San Antonio?
It's time. Wrap up. Can you wrap up?
So the question is this. We have a history of planning and planning well. We have a rich history and landscape of many immigrants and Nebraskans who have been here. Are we willing to risk that and be made a joke nationally as the Cornhusker clink for money that we may or may not get and that breaks all values of Nebraska? That is the question I have for you today, Senators. And
Thank
with
you.
that, I submit.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will go from left to right just to even it out. So you can start either side if y'all choose.
Good morning. My name is Dee Evil, and I'm a leader from Omaha Together One Community, or OTOC, a 30-year-old coalition of...
Excuse me. Can you spell your name, please?
Oh, yes, I'm a newbie. Deeebel. OTOC is a 30-year coalition of 30 church congregations and community groups and thousands of Nebraska voters. We strongly oppose the proposal to open a federal detention camp in Nebraska. I speak not only as an OTOC leader, but as a mother and a grandmother in West Omaha. I was deeply dismayed by Governor Bellin's decision to convert the McCook work ethic camp into an immigration center. The current facility is a point of pride for our state, providing jobs in a small community with helping Nebraskans complete their sentences with the tools they need for successful reentry. It reduces recidivism and a genuine hope for rehabilitation. To hand this facility over for detention purposes undermines the progress. It raises serious constitutional and ethical questions. Can the governor unilaterally convert a state-funded facility into an immigration detention center? Is this truly a Nebraska resource accountable to our legislature and people? Or is it being offered as a political gesture? Most of those who want to be detained are not criminals. They have not been charged or convicted on any crime. The only offense is working, raising families, and contributing to Nebraska communities that urgently need them. Nebraskans want positive immigration solutions that help us welcome new families to our state and provide stability for those who have already made decades of valuable contributions. We do not want harsh enforcement of outdated immigration policies that only harm our people and our economy. Finally, I urge our leaders to use language and policies that affirm the dignity of people, of all people. Another leader in our state, Bishop James Conley of the Catholic Diocese of Lincoln, has written, "Every person, whether an immigrant or not, documented or not, is a human being in the image and likeness of God. This human dignity must be recognized and respected. Let us constantly see each other with the eyes of Jesus Christ, who looks mercifully and loving upon all of us. For the good of the Nebraska families, workers, and communities, we ask you to proceed to a full hearing and reject the proposal of the federal detention camp. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? No? Thank you. Next, testifier.
Good morning. My name is Tim Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T. I'm a retired therapist who worked for 45 years for the state of Nebraska within the correctional facilities and at the Lincoln Regional Center. I'm proud of the work and the help that we provided to those individuals entrusted to our care during their stay in the Nebraska facilities. I consider myself to be an expert in the field of mental health treatment for those individuals within the forensic and correctional settings. This issue at hand is the hastily planned proposal to convert the minimum security work camp into a secure ICE detention facility. A review of President Trump's comments described these detainees as, quote, the worst of the worst, murderers, rapists, and dangerous gang members, unquote. Governor Pillen echoed this, stating, dangerous, quote, dangerous immigrants, including criminals, gang members, and terrorists, pose direct threat to public safety and national security. Nebraska's Director of Department of Correction, Jeffrey's comments indicated how Nebraska citizens required protection from the threat of these immigrants. Is it any wonder why the community of McCook is concerned? A lot of this has already been covered, so let me move to a cursory examination reveals this facility is significantly inadequate to maintain safety with individuals described as direct threats to public safety. I believe a study or a survey by competent correctional professionals is indicated to address such deficits to ensure safety of detainees, staff, and the McCook community. But we've seen this movie before in Nebraska. Let's look back to the Tecumseh facility, known for a while as Nelson's Folly. Started out as a medium security facility. They told us that there was a poultry plant that had closed, and so that we would be able to staff that readily without problem. And that didn't happen. Some workers were hired, but Tecumseh was chronically understaffed. The state even began to bus out-of-town staff into Tecumseh. The staff were overwhelmingly new NDCS employees. Then, to a medium security facility built as such, we started sending maximum security problematic individuals. Shortly, the largest riot in modern times took place, complete with murdered individuals, traumatized staff, destroyed buildings, disrupted community, and numerous ruined lives. I was on site in Tecumseh the day after the riot, and I witnessed this terrible result personally. There's an old saying, don't buy a pig in a poke. The definition of a pig in a poke is a thing that is bought without first being inspected and thus of unknown authenticity or quality. So it is fair to refer to this poorly conceived and proposed facility as Governor Pillen's pig in a poke. While the governor is an expert in hog farming, I do not view his uninformed inclination to take a minimum security.
Quiet.
Okay.
And can you wrap up at
Sure.
red light?
Okay. How about first fixing the flawed NDCS system and structure before dismantling it and selling the parts piecemeal to a harebrained scheme on a whim? Thanks to the committee for the opportunity to testify. It's been widely reported Senator Boston attempted to ensure no such examination would take place at the behest of Governor Pillen. This is surprising since both these politicians have repeatedly condemned lack of transparency of various community and governmental entities.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? Senator Roundtree?
Sir, thank you so much for your testimony today. And thank you for your work in the system for the great number of years in taking care of our members. And as our previous testifier stated, still remember the humanity of our members.
Thank you,
If we
sir.
travel down this road and we do bring in higher level detainees, as the president and our governor stated, versus the low type level facility that we have now, how would you see a resolution if something like what happened in Tecumseh happened down in that facility?
It would be difficult. And again, I'm not an expert. I'm not an architect. I'm not an engineer. But I can see that when we had to respond to the Tecumseh, it was 50 minutes from penitentiary and 50 minutes from Lincoln, about 70 from Omaha, and we were able to get there relatively quickly. And I think that the senator, you're the expert on how close actual help would be. I would hope that the sheriff's department, there was word that they contacted Nebraska Department of Corrections Emergency Services to start to look at what would happen should an insurrection take place, a hostage situation, or some other difficulty, which is what we look at with higher predatory or gang members, again, those high security individuals. So there'd be a lot of things we'd have to look at, I think.
And then second, would the response be incumbent upon Nebraskans, or would this, you think they would have federal people that are able to respond?
That is something that I would hopefully think would be all laid out, especially before a proposal such as this. You would start to take a look at that. You would contact local law enforcement, the community. Do they have jail space? Should there be some sort of difficulty to be able to take those? Are there hardened cells? No, there aren't hardened cells out there. Are those concrete facilities, or are they drywall, which is what the inmates burrowed through in Tecumseh to get to the men they killed and tried to kill staff? But the staff, luckily, they had concrete bunkered office areas instead of the drywall, which was placed in between the housing units in Tecumseh.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Senator Klaus?
Yeah, just to kind of clarify, I got to stick up for Senator Boston. She's been dealing with a lot of lack of information too. So, I mean, as we all are. So I'm just going to defend her a little bit there.
That's very chivalrous of you. But I think that, again, you spoke eloquently that when there is a vacuum, then all this other stuff comes in. I researched this, and I've got volumes of stuff that happened with the comment, all those things. And so I'm giving you what the president and what our governor has said. And so that is what we have to go on and what I've experienced.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just say that Tecumseh is on modified operations because they can't properly staff it to this day. So let that sink in.
So, and most people don't know what modified operations are, but that means that these men are locked down for a great part of the day, usually getting out to shower and for an hour. And the longer you lock people down in or have difficult conditions, that increases the potential for disruption and difficulties, even among those inmates that you've established good rapport with. They become frustrated, angry, and say, hey, how come you're treating me bad because of those guys doing bad things? And that was my job, to help them understand and keep working on themselves to make the requisite changes to return to society as a productive citizen, which is what our goal is.
Thank you. Next testifier.
Hi, my name is Nate Ostick, Nateostdiek, and I'm a resident of District 6 in Central Omaha. I sit here today in opposition, filled with great concern about the conduct of Governor Pillen and strong condemnation for the actions of Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement and President Trump. Immigration has been weaponized to divide and conquer the American people and distract from their true agenda, which is control. While terrorizing our Latino and immigrant communities, President Trump and Governor Pillen have not so subtly consolidated more and more authority. The governor claimed that supreme executive authority in his order that the work at the camp would be converted into an ICE facility, bypassing the system's checks and balances and further tying our state to the whims of a president who has shown himself to be unpredictable, unreliable, and hostile. Not only that, but this illegal divisive action only further proves that Governor Pillen and the state's Republican leadership are not serious about addressing Nebraska's real challenges. They're not serious leaders and would prefer to act like authoritarian bullies to distract the people from our horrific budget crisis and the slowing economic growth that their leadership has resulted in. Instead of taking responsibility for their destructive policies, Pillen and Trump terrorize our neighbors, demonize immigrants, and subject our incarcerated population to overcrowding. What we need is criminal justice reform and a government that actually cares about the common good. But no, these actions are reflective of a government that's not prioritized its people's quality of life or public safety, but rather one that is interested in grandstanding, maintaining power, and enforcing its agenda through everyday cruelty. I only hope that the state and federal government reconsider its actions and act in a manner in accordance with common decency and the rule of law.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you. Next testifier.
Good morning. My name is Tara Nordbrock, Taranordbrock. I was born and raised in Nebraska by parents from the heartland whose parents were born in the heartland. I grew up on church potlucks, Friday night lights, and neighbors who show up with a casserole before you even think to ask. I'm here because Nebraska taught me that community is sacred, and community means all of us. I really thought Governor Pillen would show up today, so this is a little personal to him, but maybe he'll watch. Governor Pillen, senators, before we talk about policy, I want to talk about family. Your family, Governor. Your grandfather came to this country from Germany and later put on an American uniform to serve in World War I. That is a story of belonging earned through work, faith, and sacrifice. It is also a reminder that immigrants don't just use America, they build America, they protect America, and become America. The plan to convert the work ethic camp in McCook, built for roughly 125 people, into a 300-bed ICE detention facility doesn't look like safety. It looks like history trying to repeat itself with a new coat of paint. It looks like a turning place designed for accountability and rehabilitation into a holding pen for families and workers our economy quietly relies on. It looks like Nebraska volunteering to be a part of a machinery that too often sweeps up our neighbors without due process. I also want to be clear about the national context. The federal government has recently tried to revive an old wartime law, the Alien Enemies Act, to fast-track deportations, a move legal experts say is unprecedented outside a declared war. A federal judge blocked it this spring, but the message is clear. There is a push to normalize mass detention and removal with the thinnest legal justifications. Nebraska should not be the state that offers the beds to make that happen. Governor Pillen, your own press office has touted partnerships with DHS and ICE, but partnerships are choices, and choices reveal our values. Do we choose to be the state that opens our doors to detention quotas, or the state that opens our arms to the very workers who harvest our food, staff our plants, and enliven our towns? Now I want to talk about what this means on the ground beyond slogans. First of all, families. We're told it's only criminals, but that line blurs quickly in practice. Traffic stops morph into immigration holds. Court check-ins turn into handcuffs. Parents disappear mid-shift. Nebraska kids lose caregivers. Schools lose stability. Churches lose parishioners. The hurt is real, and it lands on children first, our children. We've already lived through a national experiment where families were torn apart. We don't need a local expansion pack for that grief. Second, due process and dignity. When someone is placed hundreds of miles from council and community, due process becomes a scavenger hunt. People stop fighting their cases not because they lack merit, but because they cannot access help. A bigger detention footprint does not produce more justice. It produces more "I give up."
Can you begin to wrap up, please?
Yeah. Shoot. So third, economics and honesty. Immigrant labor is not an abstraction in Nebraska. It is woven through our farms, factories, and small businesses. We cannot build an economy with one hand and criminalize it with the other. If we truly need these workers, and we do, then our policy should reflect that reality with legal pathways and community integration, not cages, buses, detention is expensive theater that lets us avoid fixing the law. I want to bring this back to your grandfather, Governor. Imagine if in a different turn of history, he had been the one labeled enemy alien. Imagine if the country he later served had put him behind a fence because of where he came from. Yeah. Let the record show that Nebraska stood for neighbors, for families, and for the hard, hopeful work of welcoming people into the circle, just as we once welcomed a young German immigrant whose grandson now occupies the highest office in this state. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from committee? No? Thank you. Next testifier. If you are going to testify, there is some open seats in the front, so you can move up. It's not a lot, though. All right, you may begin.
My name is James Cummings, Jamescummings. Thank you all for serving our state in this way. Considering whether to provide our facility in McCook to Immigration and Customs Enforcement to detain not just the worst, but detain our friends and neighbors, think about the principle and think about what is practical. The principle is stated in the United States Constitution. No person, citizen or not, shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. The federal government is abducting people off the streets with no due process. They're violating the very principles of the United States, who we were founded to be. We in Nebraska do not want to join in that harm and injustice to these people and destruction of who we are. And let's be practical. You do not protect anyone's job if you lock up workers who will not be replaced. If you take so many, you shut down the operation, then others lose their jobs. Recently, I needed new siding on my home in Lincoln. I found a crew who were professional and pleasant, and I did not need to wait around for the other guys. My wife and I made friends with the owner and his wife as we shared a meal together in our home, and we offered to go with them to any hearings they may need to face. Sadly, even people who are here legally, doing all they can to obey the rules and to contribute, can be abducted by our government with no recourse. All persons have rights. You are here to serve, especially the citizens of Nebraska. We do not want this costly injustice.
Thank you. Any questions from committee? No. Senator Roundtree.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to appreciate your testimony coming as I've appreciated all of it. I'm also having a siding project done, and the members that came and took care of my siding were all Hispanic members that came and they did an outstanding job. And I would stand like you to go with them because they came, they worked hard, We gave them water, went out and made conversation. So yes, these are the people that take care of us. Thank you.
These are the people that take care of us.
Absolutely.
Amen.
That's right. Thank you. Next testifier.
Morning.
You may begin.
Chairman McKinney, members of the Urban Affairs Committee, thank you for allowing the public an opportunity to discuss this important topic. My name is Ann Worth, and I'm the Associate Legal Director at the Center for Immigrant and Refugee Advancement, or CIRA. CIRA serves immigrants and refugees across Nebraska by providing free legal representation, among other services. And we oppose the plan to convert the McCook Work Ethic Camp into an ICE detention camp because we witnessed firsthand the dangers posed by immigration detention under this federal government. After the June 10th raid on an Omaha packing plant, ICE held 78 individuals in their custody. Despite the government's attempt to conceal the location of these individuals, we learned they were being held at an ICE field office in Omaha for over 48 hours after the raid. ICE held the detained individuals in an inappropriate and ill-equipped facility, a facility where there are no beds, there are no showers, there are no clothes to change into, there is no method to obtain required medication, and there is no means to provide medical care. This is not conjecture. I know these details because I spoke with these individuals who experienced ICE's lack of planning and inhumanity. In one case, a detained woman had been scheduled to have screws taken out of her arm days after the raid and was not provided any means of treatment, risking infection until her lawyer intervened. ICE provided them with food and water, but they failed to consider the basic aspects of human needs, not even providing competent interpretation for Spanish-speaking detainees. It was not until they reached a state-run facility that they were afforded the basic decency that is not only morally right, but constitutionally required. It is clear from our experience how any person detained and accused of being an undocumented immigrant will be treated by this federal government, which will have complete or some oversight over this facility. They will eschew the basic decency and dignity every individual deserves. They will ignore lawyers trying to locate detainees and families searching for loved ones. They will allow medications and serious medical conditions to be ignored. They will allow wounds to go untreated. We know this because they already have. We have seen it. It's important to understand that these individuals apprehended in this raid were not accused of crimes. They were charged with civil violations and were held under the authority of a generalized administrative warrant. To be clear, there has been one raid in Nebraska under this administration, apprehending 78 individuals, and that raid uncovered only one alleged criminal. Nationally, the American Immigration Lawyers Association and the Cato Institute have reported that only 7% of people caught up in this administration's indiscriminate enforcement have been convicted of a violent crime, and 65% have never been convicted of any crime. If the McCook detention camp opens, the governor has claimed that it will house dangerous criminal migrants. My question to the governor is, what criminals? Neither our experience as a direct service provider in the state nor the statistics support that there are enough criminals to fill a 300-bed camp in rural Nebraska. Logically, this means that the federal government will attempt to fill the detention camp with other individuals. The Trump administration has made it clear their goal is to terrorize immigrants. They continue to demean and dehumanize a population that is integral to the state of Nebraska, as well as the entire country. We must not do this for them. We must stop this detention camp because we know the inhumanity it poses does not align with Nebraskan values. We urge our state leadership to reconsider this dangerous plan. Thank you, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator Kavanaugh?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Is it Worth?
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Worth. So if this place opens and there are 300 folks that are there that are, I guess, maybe slated for removal from the country, would that be what we think?
You would assume that if you're detained by ICE that you would be slated for removal, but I think we've seen in practice that ICE has been indiscriminately scooping up Americans as well as undocumented individuals and everything in between.
But so those folks would need to be able to be in front of a immigration judge, right?
Absolutely.
Where's the nearest immigration judge to McCook?
Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay. And are those hearings done remotely usually? Are they in person?
There have been, so I'll speak from experience from the individuals being held in the Lincoln County Jail in North Platte. Many of those individuals have appeared via Zoom for their hearings, although in practice it's quite unreliable that ICE is able to put them on for their hearings. Usually they're able to attend most of their immigration hearings via Zoom.
In person?
Via Zoom.
Via Zoom, okay.
There have been individuals who had come to Omaha for other hearings who were able to attend their immigration court hearings in person as well.
And then how about lawyers, the consultation with lawyers? How does somebody get access to their lawyer?
Yeah, once again, I'll speak from experience in LCJ, which is 4 hours away. McCook is a similar distance, maybe about a half an hour further. It was very difficult. Most attorneys were in Omaha because that's where the families were, and many attorneys had to coordinate. And I will give gratitude to Lincoln County Jail in this moment because they, as a facility, did the best that they could to provide contact with lawyers. I don't anticipate, or I wouldn't anticipate, that ICE would have the same courtesy for the detainees.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, committee? Senator Roundtree?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, in your testimony, you said only 7% of detainees have maybe a criminal record other than similar civil types.
Yeah, so 7% have been convicted of a violent crime. That's national statistics.
Okay.
And 65% have been convicted of no crime at all.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next testifier.
Good morning. I'm Glenn Simonson, GLENN and thank you for this opportunity very much. I just want to read these words into the record. They're from the Judeo-Christian Bible. Very briefly, first one from Leviticus. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you. You shall love him as yourself. I am the Lord your God. The second one is even shorter and blunt. Cursed is anyone who withholds justice from the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow. Thank you.
Thank you. Next testifier.
How do I do this? Hello. Good morning. I wish it was a good morning every day in America, but it's not. My name is Guillermo Enrique Peña Valladares. I live at 311 East 3rd, Grand Island, Nebraska. This is where my family decided to make their lives after the Dickies factory closed down in Texas and was outsourced to Mexico. We're immigrants. Should I fear saying my name? Am I a U.S. citizen? These are questions that will come up to me every day now, and my family. Every day we have to ask ourselves, are we gonna be all right? This is for my gente, for the people, the tired, the poor, the huddled masses. This is not the first time any administration has separated family. Just ask my native cousins from the north. Just ask my African brothers and sisters that were brought here without authority. Now it's happening in 2025. My experience with this was very shielded as a child. It was a game. Hide in the closet. Shush. It's a hiding game. I don't want any child to experience this ever again. I was lucky. I was very lucky that I still have my family. But now I fear my mother's broken English might be a problem. Now I fear that this concentration camp, it's not a detention camp very soon, will be putting, that is where my family will be. You're trying to imprison the agricultural hands of Nebraska. They're already battered and bruised. I am from the 3rd district. My family works in meatpacking plants. I fear for them. Some are residents, some are citizens, and of course, as previous people in between. I am the first college graduate out of my family. The people who help the agriculture industry, help the dairy farmer, help the producer, help the picker, help the cattle rancher. I know I may not look like the good life, but I'm living it. And you all should know, and Governor Pillen should know, that equality before the law comes before. That the only code violation is a human rights violation trying to be imposed in the state of Nebraska. I'm sorry if I get emotional, but this is, it hurts my heart to think that our community wants to detain me, that I can't travel interstate in the 3rd District without thinking I might be detained or my family may never see me again. I am scared, but I will speak, and I ask those, para mi gente, que hablen, que sepan, to speak, to hear yourselves out. Do not be fearful to say your name. Do not be fearful to speak your language. We know both, and something I know is that these tongues are not mine. English is not mine. Spanish is not mine. I'm a mestizo, and that's who I am. Thank you. I just wanted to have that statement. Please do not bring this to Nebraska. For the gente. For the people.
No applause. No applause.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator Quick?
And I don't really have a question. I just wanted to thank you for coming here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Quick.
Senator Roundtree?
And I just want to say congratulations on being the first member graduated from college. Thank you for pressing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next testifier?
My name is Gary Heisel, Garyheusel, and I honestly hadn't planned to testify, but after hearing from other people, I decided that I should. I came here, I'm a transplant. I came here in 1996 to work with Nebraska 4-H. And in 1996, people in the legislature were really apolitical. No longer can I say that they're really apolitical. I think it's a joke that's even called apolitical. I'm here also with Global Ties. Global Ties works with the United States the Department of State to bring people here from other countries, professionals who want to learn from us, and we can learn from them. I've also been involved with the Mayor's Committee for International Visitors, Partners of the Americas, in which we have 2 partners in Brazil, a Friendship Force. I have not met one person from another country who I would consider to be a criminal. And the fact that we've got ICE agents disguised as bank robbers pulling people off the street, and now we're going to volunteer to detain them in Nebraska, Nebraska nice. And the fact that the leadership, a lot of the leadership is not here, speaks really volumes that they don't care. They don't want to listen to the people. This is really a show. We volunteered because apparently somebody wants to get the president's ear, the president's honor or whatever, when we really can't, we don't have the space. We've been talking about the prison problem for years, and yet we do this, and this is our leadership thinking, really? I don't really have anything else to say except if you do this, it's not in the best interest of the citizens of Nebraska. It's in the interest of some political person. Have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? No? Thank you. Next testifier?
Good morning, Senators. Thank you for your time. I'm the Reverend Scott Allen Johnson, Johnsson, and I serve as the Bishop of the Nebraska Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. In that office, I serve roughly 80,000 Nebraskans in 218 congregations across all parts of the state, including Our Savior's Lutheran Church in McCook. Now, as a church, we don't all agree politically. There are members of my church that are very much in favor of this facility. There are others who are very definitely opposed. What we do believe is that it is the right and responsibility of the church to be publicly engaged and part of a process of moral deliberation, which, as you've noted, is not happening. We're not deliberating this at all. So thank you for your work to actually try and bring this to the light of the public. In a social statement on criminal justice affirmed by our churchwide assembly in 2013, we said, as a church, a national church, individuals accused of and detained for immigration violations lack adequate due process and meaningful access to legal counsel. Conditions of confinement are often harsh and include solitary confinement and minimal access to visitors. This experience can be re-traumatizing and isolating, particularly for individuals who are locked up far from their families and communities. This church urges that arbitrary and indefinite detention and dehumanizing isolation of immigrants should be discontinued and the use of humane alternatives expanded. We said that in 2013. That was 12 years ago. Where have we gotten since then as a society? This proposed detention facility will increase, not decrease, the arbitrary, indefinite detention and dehumanizing isolation of immigrants in America. I am deeply troubled by the anti-immigrant rhetoric, cruelty, and dehumanizing practices being deployed by ICE at this time. I believe this proposed facility will serve to embolden and increase those practices. I don't believe I'm alone in that belief, and I think we must be better than this. For those of us that are people of faith, I think God is demanding that we be better than this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from committee? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next testifier.
Good morning. My name is Ruby Mendez, RUBYMENDEZ, and I am here to testify on behalf of Nebraska Appleseed. But most importantly, I am here to share the voices of Nebraskans. A few weeks ago, we sent out a petition. In less than 1 week, we saw more than 18,300 Nebraskans from nearly 400 towns sign this petition in front of me, which I will submit for the record, saying clearly, this is not who we are. The response has been overwhelming and statewide. People from across the state of Nebraska are united in saying Nebraska should not be used for a large-scale federal detainment camp. Here are just a few of their words. From McCook, as a resident and someone who grew up in McCook, we do not want this in our town or our state. From Hebron, this doesn't represent the values of our state or our citizenry. From Ord, this will set us back as a state and do irreparable damage. From Hastings, this will be a stain on our state for generations. Nebraskans care about family, community, and fairness. Residents in McCook have said that they need investments in schools and housing, not detainment camps. Others remind us that our immigration laws haven't been updated in nearly 40 years, leaving neighbors and families vulnerable for decades. The message is clear. This does not represent Nebraska's values. We are a state that welcomes our neighbors, not one that separates and detains them. I urge you to listen to these thousands of voices and to represent the values of our state, because this is not who we are. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? I just would like to say I appreciate this because it shows that it's not just people in Omaha and Lincoln that are concerned about this, but this is a concern of people from across the state. So I appreciate this.
Yes, of course. And yeah, we saw it in like almost 400 towns across Nebraska. So it's clear that it is the entire state. And in our petition, you'll find comments from almost every community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next testifier.
My name is Reverend Richard Mannell, RICHARDMANNEL. And I come here being very thankful that you set up this hearing, that we citizens have a chance to offer our opinion. And that opinion is that I am opposed to the establishment of the ICE facility to be called Cornhusker Clink in Nebraska. And the reason is the way ICE carries out its work does not reflect the values of Nebraska. And just a couple of examples. In the 31 years that we have lived in Nebraska, I've been absolutely mesmerized by this Capitol building. And I spent a lot of time studying its artistic things and especially the inscriptions in the wall. Because this Capitol building is unique in the country, is that in those inscriptions are what Nebraskans believe about the law. And this Capitol building, what it does is it transports what Nebraskans believed about the law 100 years ago. And that's been consistent throughout the years. And we citizens expect that our government is going to operate according to those standards. And there's a couple of examples of what I mean by that. When fourth graders visit the Capitol each spring, and I know there's any fourth grader that can travel here and back in a school day, I think shows up at the Capitol building. But they first read the inscription as they come in the building. Salvation, the salvation of the state is watchfulness in the citizen. If Cornhusker Clink goes through, it is obvious that every attempt has been made to silence the voice of citizens, to not listen to it. And if that goes through, people that visit, those from our government, including perhaps you, if you were to visit those fourth graders, you might as well be wearing a t-shirt that says, you can offer your opinion, but I really don't care to listen to it. Because that's what comes across in how this Cornhusker Clink has come to be. And then when students go into the Capitol, they reach the rotunda and they sit on the floor of the rotunda and they see the words, "Men should not consider it slavery to live according to the rule of our Constitution, for it is their salvation." ICE, on the other hand, seems to avoid following the rule of Constitution whenever they can. And a good example, or until they get caught at it, and an example of it is recently the attempt to deport children who are unaccompanied in the middle of the night until a judge found out about it somehow and stopped them. I see my time is up, and if I went on, I would be saying more of the same thing. Because to enter into an official legal contract with ICE, we are entering into a contract with somebody that doesn't value our values as Nebraska. And if Cornhusker Clink gets established, as long as it's here, it's going to be a thorn in the side of Nebraska, and it's going to undermine our values because we aren't any longer going to be able to say to our kids, hey, you want to find out what we think? Go read the inscriptions on the Capitol building, because those inscriptions will no longer be true. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks very much for the time.
No problem. Any questions from committee? No? Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
Next testifier.
Good morning. My name is Don Hooper, Donhooper. I'm a retired educator. I work with a group called Like-Minded Friends Fighting for Democracy, and I am married to a pissed off grandma. I'm in opposition to a detention center being opened anywhere in Nebraska. The way the detention centers are being run and operated is totally inhumane and wrong. I agree we need to get rid of criminals and drug dealers, but that's not what's going on. Instead, we are arresting, detaining innocent individuals, even United States citizens. Individuals arrested have been given no due process and no legal representation. Masked individuals with no name tags, identification, arresting individuals in broad daylight, taking their phones away, handcuffing them, and flying them to other states. The fear this administration has spread through all of America is wrong. Many in the country are afraid to go outside in fear of being arrested. We have National Guard troops in arms in American cities and spreading more fear and anxiety in all of us. What's happened to compassion, empathy, and love? Unfortunately, our present administration has none of those qualities and do not truly care about people or how they're being treated. I really don't know how they can look in the mirror or sleep at night with the things they're doing to people. Have you ever had the feeling when you went somewhere and lost sight of your daughter or son for a moment and felt that anxiety? How would you feel if a loved one was taken away from you in front of you and you had no idea of where they're going or if they'll ever be seen again? Families are being torn apart, and this is wrong. Immigrants deserve better, and we need immigrants. Our president is truly acting as a dictator or a king. He is in love with himself and no one else. Look at what he has done to institutions, agencies, law firms, colleges, research, firing thousands of federal employees for beginners. Not enough time to talk about tariffs or relationships we have with other countries around the world. Our president is a felon. He lies. He acknowledges no wrong or apologizes for none of his wrongs. He even cheats golfing. Our Congress and our Senate are following the lead and lying as well, and are afraid to do the right thing for all those that they represent. Matter of fact, you can't even talk to them. They're not in person. Maybe it's time to stand up and do the right thing. You all swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, and they are not doing that out of fear. I believe it is time to come together and work together to save our country. With all that's going on, I've not heard of any constructive discussion or plans of working on an immigration policy for our country and adopting a way to become, that would welcome those to America. We need our immigrants. As for the detention center, I opened up by saying I'm in opposition to the detention center. I'm embarrassed that they want to call it Cornhusker Clink. Driving into our state, it says Nebraska, the good life, home of Arbor Day. Are we really going to add home of Cornhusker Clink to the Welcome to Nebraska sign? I don't think so. If there's a detention center, I certainly hope it never comes about. But if it does, I think it should be named after the individual who is behind this and is pushing so strongly for it. It should be named Pillen's Prison in honor of the individual who wants this in Nebraska. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next testifier.
Sorry to cut the line like that, but I have a class at noon that I need to get to. Good morning. My name is Reese Haith, Reeceheaith. I'm a 19-year-old sophomore student studying environmental and sustainability with an emphasis in policy and law at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Like our governor and Representative Pete Ricketts, who decided not to show today, I am a raised Catholic. I went to church every Sunday, and I've read the Bible from cover to cover, and I can say with most certainty that their God is looking down on them in horror. I hope to appeal to their faith when I share a verse that has shaped my perception of kindness and morality since adolescence. Matthew 25:35 says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. Does subjecting your neighbors to the fear of being ripped away from their families seem welcoming? My freshman year roommate has been living in this fear for months. Even as a US-born citizen, she fears for her family. Her mother is a healthcare worker and her sister is a student. If this Cornhusker clink is approved, Nebraska will be bending a knee to a president whose deportation goal is unattainable and inhumane. You will be spending $45 billion in federal funds to intimidate our state and the very people who make it great. The same farm workers Jim Pillen praised while campaigning for re-election. He wishes to increase domestic processing while simultaneously giving the green light to ICE to raid Glen Valley Foods, taking over 50% of their employees. You cannot preach for profitable agriculture while detaining half of the workforce. I plead to your humanity and hope you will reconsider this proposition. Would you like to be taken prisoner for wanting a better life for you and your family?
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Just thank you.
Thank you. Next testifier.
Hi, my name is Melanie Knight, N-E-L-A-N-I-E, K-N-I-G-H-T, and I am actually a resident of Clay Center, Nebraska, in District 38, which is where this would be located. So my grandfather, I am a lifelong Nebraskan, and I'm old enough to grow up in the time that we had a lot of adages that were said. So one of the ones that my grandfather said often was, "A man is only as good as his word." That could mean holding true to your word, but it could also apply to honesty. I am also a person of faith and have read the scriptures, which I know say, "A wise man thinks ahead, a fool doesn't," and then even brags about it. Proverbs 13:16. Along with Luke 14:28, which says, "For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether it has enough to complete it?" We know in regards to ICE, we have heard the quote, "Get him. He looks Mexican." We know that veterans, parents of veterans, citizens, unaccompanied minors that were only stopped by a judge willing to be up in the middle of the night, those with legal status, those that are working to become citizens, those that are working in our factories and on our fields are being nabbed. This administration's Homeland Security does not have a history of transparency, veracity, or accuracy. In addition, I called Governor Pillen's office on August 8th when we were notified that we were in the Final Four. I was told by his staff he had no clue what was going on and had not been in contact with the federal government. I then am reading a public announcement. We're on September 4th, so a month later, that the state, i.e. Governor Pillen, is the one that initiated this. That doesn't hold true. You can't have both at the same time. I'm horrified, I'm disgusted, I'm embarrassed. You know, coming from a state where you can't even make a t-shirt that says Cornhusker something without them coming down on you legally, I don't understand how we're applying it to the name of this, but I can't come up with enough words. I'm saying no to this as a rural Nebraskan who knows that we depend upon immigrant labor. Once again, in our factories, food production, this is not right. So thank you for holding this hearing. Thank you for being transparent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. You can begin.
My name's Eric Delaney, E-R-I-K-D-E-L-A-N-E-Y, and I'm here representing the National Association of Social Workers Nebraska chapter. As you may know, social workers in general tend to have a focus on vulnerable populations, and certainly we've been talking about vulnerable populations. However, first of all, Senator McKinney and members of the committee, thank you for giving the people of the state of Nebraska the opportunity to speak to this issue. I will ask, though, isn't this hearing actually held to address the issue of the building codes relative to the structure in McCook and how that relates to a federal detention facility that would be used by the federal government? Is that?
Yes.
So what is out there now? And I know Mr. Kobernick spoke, but I just want to read into the record. What I know that's out there now is a work camp, not a maximum security prison, but national media, we're hearing this is meant to be a maximum security prison. So how is the state of Nebraska going to bear the cost of transferring a work camp into a maximum security prison? How are we doing this? Well, it seems like this is something that's happening behind closed doors. Yeah. I mean, why don't the people of the state of Nebraska who elect y'all and the governor have the opportunity to even have a say in any way through their representatives on this issue? Why? Well, I don't think it's a stretch to say that we all know that the reason you do things behind closed doors is because there's something shady going on. I mean, the reasonably prudent person can surmise from what's happening with this facility that there's something shady going on. But also, for the purpose of this hearing, and again, thank you, Senator McKinney, it seemed like it was an uphill climb to get even to here. That's a work camp. I'm going to say it again. That is a work camp. There are no bars. There may be fences. This is not a prison out there. And the vulnerable people, we're talking about the farm workers of our state that have brown skin, like the fellow that came in here, that was talking about, right? Like, we're going to have ICE operatives in the state of Nebraska looking for people who are brown, because that's the only apparent profiling qualification that's necessary to put people into that facility. And then on top of that, we're going to probably have, because we won't have enough people that are actually illegal in some way, shape, or form to put in there that are actual people that live in Nebraska. So we'll have people coming from the national level also, right? What is our state turning into?
Can you wrap up?
Absolutely. I will wrap up by saying thank you, the members of the committee and Senator McKinney, for again giving the state the opportunity to speak to these issues.
Thank you. Next testifier.
Hola a todos. Me llamo René Carrillo. Translated, hello everyone. My name is René Carrillo. That is my assimilated pronunciation of my name. Spelled RENECARRILLO. I am with Lincoln DSA. I'm also an IBEW union member with 265 here in Lincoln. Not in official representation of either, though I'm pretty sure a lot of both will condemn what is going on here. I just want to do a quick reading from one of our zines, Lincoln DSA, What is Wrong with ICE? It is easy to forget that Immigration and Customs Enforcement has only existed since 2003. Both Republicans and Democrats agreed to the necessity of border security, quote unquote, and the separation of children began under Obama. In its 20 plus years, ICE has done nothing but harm. If the news and images of the past few months have made you angry, you now feel like a line has been crossed. Now, know that the only thing that has changed is that you are finally hearing about it and seeing it. ICE has already committed crimes that meet the United Nations definition of genocide, is on track to exceed the worst atrocities in American history. Thousands of people are missing, families are torn apart, and hundreds have died in ICE custody. We are weaponizing our legal system against entire ethnic groups of people. The United States criminalizes whole families, charges people as gang members when they have never broken any American laws, and bans the people of entire nations from entrance. Throughout our history, I'm going to summarize this part, we have seen genocide committed on this land, back with the natives being killed off and forced into camps, killing about 5,000 or more. During 1929 to 36, the Mexican reparations were 2 million Mexican Americans were shoved back into Mexico, to a state or country they never were a part of or knew the land. World War II, we had Japanese internment camps here where 1,168 people died. After the Civil War, 13th Amendment was established or abolished slavery. But then we knew that the incarceration system just kept that type of system alive and running. I want to say under capitalism, there will be no natural end to the concentration camps and inhumane incarceration because they are profitable. Detainees are held in for-profit facilities, and the more people ICE arrest, the richer these capitalist pigs become. Each generation before us has fought to end the injustice they saw in their lifetimes. It is now our turn, and we must abolish ICE and end and close these camps. It's obvious I myself am Hispanic. I do fear for my life at times. I was born in Texas. Not too proud of that because I don't really stay in the state. I was raised in New Mexico. My family, my mom and dad are both from Chihuahua, Mexico. Growing up, I asked, my dad a little bit about his past. He told me that.
You got a red light, so can you, quick 30 seconds.
I just want to finish by saying, Governor Pillen and the GOP, the gang of pedophiles, they need to stop trying to create slaves and enrich the capitalist pigs who continue to oppress the BIPOC population. Thank you.
No applause. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next testifier.
My name is Bethany Gosen, spelled BETHANYGOOSSEN. I'd also like to start by thanking you all very, very much for coming out here. It can't have been easy to make this happen. Being able to access what's going on in our legislative decision-making lately has been trickier and trickier, and I'm grateful that you all had the temerity and the courage to make this hearing occur. I am a teacher. I teach computer applications. I teach web design and coding and Excel and workplace readiness skills. I am very, very passionate about technology education. And currently I am employed at Southeast Community College, but I work with a variety of different community groups. I'm not here representing anybody but myself, but I do work with a lot of different digital literacy groups and community education groups. I have student groups who are marginalized. I work with students who are in refugee communities, and I work with incarcerated students who are preparing for workplace reentry. And I'm having a lot of trouble right now being able to keep getting students without just straight up volunteering one-on-one time with them, which is totally fine by me, but it should be easier for them to find access to this type of education. I'm personally driven by my work because I'm disgusted that people get separated from things like healthcare and job applications because they have to use computer technology for it. If they don't know how to use the app, then they can't get their medical documents. They can't do their shopping. They can't do all of these things unless they have access to it. And so I'm driven to bring this information to people. And I'm frustrated when I realize that we have facilities here that could be catering to these communities. We could be offering more of this help to people, and we're curtailing it. Parts of my position have been impacted by the adjustments in the way that we are handling our funding right now. And I was really hoping that Governor Pillen would be here today because I want to know about the way that he's been spending his money. I want to know about more than just him, though, our leadership in general. Specifically on August 19th, when he was interviewed by NTV, I remember him specifically saying that he wasn't really sure if men, women, and children would be housed together in the facility. I remember him also hammering that this was a security issue, and yet he doesn't know the one thing and the other. I wasn't surprised when an earlier testimony said that they had called his office and he stated, or it was stated, that he had no idea what was going on. Pillen doesn't know. This is what he's been saying. Pillen doesn't know. On September 7th, he delivered a podcast with the Daily Wire, and it was the same situation where he was clear that he didn't have full information about who was being housed and how long they would be there. And I want to know what our plan is going forward to make sure there's transparency and that we can be sure that we do know what's happening, that our legislators and our lawmakers are actually informing our community about what's going to be done with the ICE facility. I'm very much in opposition to it too. I should say that as well.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have school, guys. I'm so sorry. Okay. Hello, Chairperson McKinney and members of the Urban Affairs Committee. My name is Dally Long, spelled Dahlylong, and I'm a senior at the University of Nebraska of Omaha studying social work. I chose this path because I believe in standing up for people, especially those who are hurting, underheard, or pushed aside. I'm here today not just as a student, but as a Nebraskan who is heartbroken and deeply disturbed by the proposal to turn the work ethic camp in McCook into an ICE detention center. That facility was meant to help Nebraskans rebuild their lives, not imprison immigrants seeking safety and opportunity. The idea of expanding immigration detention in our state is opposite to the values of compassion, fairness, and human rights. Detaining individuals, many of whom are fleeing violence, poverty, or persecution, does not make our community safer. Instead, it perpetuates trauma, separates families, and criminalizes people for seeking a better life. As a Nebraskan, I'm ashamed of that our state initiated this partnership with ICE and the Department of Homeland Security. It does not make sense, not morally, not economically, and so certainly not socially. Our leaders are choosing to expand ICE detention facilities, sign agreements, and deploy our National Guard to assist in immigration raids. These are the same officials who have long claimed to support Nebraska's working families, agriculture, and small businesses. Yet now they're aligning with federal enforcement strategies that tear apart families, disrupt local communities, and instill fear in entire communities. Governor Pillen's decision to convert the work ethic camp in McCook into ICE detention center is especially baffling because he doesn't even consider himself a politician, even though he's an elected official. Congressman Bacon's outreach to ICE after the Glen Valley food raid revealed that the company was compliant with E-Verify, in itself a victim of identity fraud. And Senator Ricketts, who spoke of Nebraska values and community strength, now supports policies that criminalize people who contribute to our state's economy every day. Let that sink in. Congressman Bacon's outreach to ICE confirmed that the business followed all legal hiring protocols and was not at fault. Instead of questioning the raid and defending Nebraskan workers and employees and employers, officials doubled down. They advocate for 280 new detention beds, signed an agreement allowing state troopers to act as immigration agents, and sent National Guard troops to assist ICE. Why are we doing this? Why are we punishing workers and families? This isn't leadership. This is a fear-driven policy that hurts real people. It's not just a political issue, it's a human one. And as someone who is preparing to enter a profession rooted in empathy and justice, I cannot stay silent. There are so many unanswered questions. Who pays for this? Who oversees this? What happens to the local staff in McCook and the prisoners there? If it's a low security facility, why are we paying money to expand it to put these people in cages? And most importantly, why weren't Nebraskans asked, which is why I really appreciate you having this so we can chit chat about it. So yeah, I don't know. I just urge everybody to reject opening an ICE detention center in our state, and Nebraska should not be in business of separating families or criminalizing survival. We should be investing in community, not incarceration. So yeah, thank you for listening, and I hope this contributes to a thoughtful discussion. But yeah, and I'm sorry I cut the line. I have school. I'm really sorry. That's
Thank
my
you.
truth.
Thank you. Any questions? Senator Roundtree?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, ma'am, for coming to testify. Thank you for the field of social work that you're entering into. And it sounds like you have a lot of unanswered questions, and you would like to have answers to those questions. So I'd write to the governor's office. I'd ask those questions as part of our participative process, plus testifying here. I would like to know also, have you served in our United States Air Force, or are you planning to serve in the United States Air Force?
I am not a part of the military. My family is Air Force, though.
Okay, outstanding. We appreciate it. Thank you for the
Thank-
service. Well, thank you.
Thank you, and thanks everybody for the time and everybody here. Okay.
Thank you. Next testifier.
Hey guys, my name is Gabriel Benishek. That's spelled GabrielBenischek. And thank you guys for holding this. This is really good, especially since there's not a lot of transparency with the current decisions going on. I am a sophomore at Nebraska Wesleyan, and I am surrounded by young people who are very disappointed in the way the rise of like authoritarianism in governments. People are scared of their civil liberties being taken away, and it's not, you know, it doesn't really affect me because, you know, I was born here, but I empathize with the people who are scared or who are being detained and stuff like that. And it honestly makes me disappointed in Nebraska for even considering this. Yeah, I don't have a prepared speech or anything. I just have a few things to say. Yeah, I used to look up to leaders like this, and I kind of want to go into politics now, but I'm a little hesitant, you know, because will I be disappointed? Will I be around people who don't have the best interests of the people? These are all questions that I'm asking myself. But I see that a lot of young people, they do have empathy, and they do want to make this country to its best potential. And they do see the errors of the policies that our government is making. One thing I'm also concerned about is the acceptance of policies like this, specifically from authoritarian conservatives who see these unconstitutional things. And I know in Nebraska there's a large like libertarian like conservative group, and I want them to ask themselves like, is this like this infringes on a lot of these liberties that we are given as United States citizens, and I want them to reflect, and I definitely want, you know, Governor Pillen and all those other politicians to reflect on their decisions, and I want them to consider like the average Joe of Nebraska, like the farmer. Also, I think in the like past quarter, there's like, I think it was Iowa and Nebraska, the GDP went down like 6%, I think.
Can you wrap
yes. I just want to say, I think there are more pressing issues to address in Nebraska than opening a facilitation camp. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Any questions? Senator Roundtree?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir, for coming in this morning. Your presence here really tells me that you care a lot about our state and care a lot about the process. I would encourage you to continue to press forward and be the change that you want to see. If not someone else, if it's not you, then who will it be? So I encourage you to press and go forward, and hope to work with you when you come in.
Well, thank you.
Next testifier.
Good morning. I think it's still morning. Thank you. I appreciate you guys and this opportunity. My name is Shawnette Naranjo, spelled Xanat Naranjo. And I just kind of wanted to bring some data. I think two of the big fear-mongering points that this administration has used against immigrants is that they are a drain on our society and that they are criminals, when in fact immigrants have paid millions into our state of Nebraska. In fact, in 2022, immigrants paid $136.3 million into state and local taxes, according to the ITEP data, and 96.7 billion into our country. They pay local taxes, they pay federal taxes, they pay all kinds of taxes. They pay into programs like Social Security, they pay into programs like Medicare. They are not eligible to receive any of those benefits, which is another big lie that this administration pushes, that they receive Medicaid, that they get free this, free that. Unfortunately, they're not eligible for those programs. So I think it's very important for the people in Nebraska and the people in this country to understand the truths of those lies and to understand how much immigrants give to our state and to our country, and that they are not, in fact, a drain to our country, to our economy. Instead, they are a huge contributor. Legally wise, data has proven that immigrants are less likely, and in fact, as a percentage of immigrants in our country has gone up, the crime rate has actually decreased. In 1980, the immigrant population was 6.2, and for every 100,000 people, the crime rate was 5,900. In 2022, the immigrant population was 13.9%, and the crime rate was 2,335 for every 100,000 people in our nation. So I think it's very important to understand truths before we start throwing people into detention centers unnecessarily. I think there's been data proving that 7% of the people that are actually being kidnapped and detained are actual criminals. I'm all for holding criminals accountable, whether they're US born or not. I think that's, of course, very important. But let's be real about what's happening here. It's racial profiling. It is absolutely not holding criminals accountable. We need to hold all criminals accountable, but we also need to be true and honest about what's happening here. And this is not it. The detention facility here in Nebraska would be a horrible thing for our state economically, socially, ethically, morally, and I'm absolutely opposed to it.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you. Next testifier.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Hanson, spelled CAITLYNHANSON. I am a born and raised lifelong Nebraskan. I am here today to oppose ICE detention in our state, and I would like to open with a quote from the Bible. Zechariah, Book 7, verses 9 and 10 state, "Thus says the Lord of hosts, render true judgments, show kindness and mercy to one another. Do not oppress the widow, the orphan, the alien, or the poor, and do not devise evil in your hearts against one another." There are many immigrants in my life that I love dearly. It should not take the love of a white woman for you to see the worth and dignity in your fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. There are many nuances in our complex immigration system: employment authorizations, pending asylum reviews. Legal or illegal are not accurate descriptors for many targeted by ICE. They certainly are not labels worthy to strip others of their humanity over. I implore you, your constituents, your taxpayers, do not want Cornhusker Clink or any ICE detention center rearing its ugly beast head in our beautiful state of Nebraska. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next testifier.
Buenos dias, good day. My name is Leonor Fuhrer, Leonorfuhrer. I am a first-generation Mexican-American born to Mexican immigrants. My family came to Nebraska when I was 6 years old by accident, I jokingly say. We were on our way to Chicago and stopped in a small town in northeast Nebraska, and they decided Nebraska was a better place to raise their family. The good life and Nebraska nice values aligned with what they wanted to raise their children with. They navigated the complex and lengthy, costly immigration system to citizenship. They traveled to Lincoln to access legal immigration services. That was over 30 years ago. The complex immigration system has only gotten more complicated, lengthier, and most definitely costlier. And still today, in my community of Norfolk, immigration legal services are non-existent, requiring travel, additional costs, and loss of wages. We need immigration reform for individuals and families who want nothing more than what many of us Nebraskans want: to live peacefully, contribute to their communities, and raise their families, the American dream. What we don't need is penalization, separation, and deportation of good people, especially on our Nebraska soil. Instead of sowing division and harvesting hate through creating inhumane and deplorable detention centers, why not be a state that demands and amplifies the need for immigration reform? This detention center does not align with Nebraska values. Our state has long benefited from the contributions of documented and undocumented immigrants in Nebraska. You've seen the numbers, you've heard them here today. We are not a political pawn. If you need more additional resources on the many contributions of immigrants, both documented and undocumented in Nebraska, I encourage you to check out Nebraska Appleseed, the American Immigration Council, Nebraska Examiner, and UNO. They have countless reports and statistics and data that amplify the many contributions that immigrants like my parents have given to this state and this country. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Muchas gracias. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next testifier.
Hello, my name is Faith Colburn, spelled Faithcolburn. I drove in from North Platte, and I just want to let you know that the people in western Nebraska have passionate views about this detention center as well. I did comment online, so I'm not going to take much more time, but as we progressed, I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask. I understand now that there's the closest immigration judge is in Omaha. How many are there? How many immigration lawyers are anywhere near McCook? I'm here representing about 50 people in North Platte, and many of them are pissed off, furious grandmas. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for your patience and your time.
No problem. Thank you for traveling here.
Any questions?
Any questions from the committee?
Nope, you were, excuse me, you were one of them. I said that there was a handful from outside of Lincoln and Omaha, so now I put a face to the name.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Casey Ware, KacieWare, and I'm here to say this as plainly as it can be said. Expanding this into an ICE facility is an act of violence. Do not sit here and pretend that the GOP believes in small government when they double down, when they're doubling cages in an already overcrowded work camp. That is not small government. That is the state at most brutal. This is a state using fear as a weapon, celebrating fascism and racism as proudly as they wear MAGA hats. Let's stop pretending this is about law and order. It's not. This is about power and coercion. This is about exploiting people twice. First, we take their labor, cheap, backbreaking work, the labor that props up farms, factories, homes, hotels all over this state. We profit from their sweat. And now we're seeking to put these same people in cages to score political points. This is hypocrisy so deep it rots. It lays bare the real American values at work here: white supremacy and bigotry. We've done this before. We forced Native people into camps. We forced Japanese Americans into camps. We swore we would never do it again. But here we are, ready to repeat the same shame under a different name. These people say they defend freedom, but they do not defend freedom when you're building cages. You do not defend freedom by ripping families apart. You do not defend freedom when you choose cruelty for political convenience. People keep speaking about Nebraska values as if we can be proud of them, as this isn't consistent with the history of our state. This proposal demonstrates that our politicians value cruelty more than they value justice. So let's tell the truth. One cannot wave the flag of liberty in one hand and cram people into boxes with the other. You cannot claim to value small government while extending the state's power to cage your neighbors. We cannot have it both ways. And history will remember what this state chooses. And my children and my grandchildren will look at our politicians with shame. They will know how wrong and immoral and devastatingly cruel this is, even if our governor will not.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Senator Wilkins. Thank you.
Thank you.
As many of us know, the Apostle Matthew closely followed the life of Jesus. In his book within the Bible.
Can you spell your name first?
Yes. My name's Isaiah Johnson. It's ISAIAHJOHNSON. Within Matthew's book within the Bible, in chapter 7, verse 12, he shares with us the words of the Lord. Do unto others what you would want them to do to you. In simpler words, treat others as you wish to be treated. Regardless of your faith or lack thereof, these words are wise to live by. I'm Isaiah Johnson. I'm with the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I'm here to speak against the building of this concentration camp. Well, earlier this morning, you sat here and discussed the living conditions of these human beings subject to this proposed camp. Right now, everyday Americans, Nebraskans like myself, say no to this terrible facility being built in the first place. I've heard one of the primary arguments used to justify this, saying how McCook needs jobs. And that's true, McCook needs jobs. But the type of jobs McCook needs are dignified jobs. And this work will bring people back to town and allow it to prosper. And it looks like public transportation, healthcare, entertainment, not concentration camps. As many of you may or may not be aware, Community Hospital is closing due to Trump's big, beautiful bill, further harming the town of McCook. Those same funds, the funds that were stolen from facilities such as Community Hospital, through this big, ugly bill, now being proposed to fund the very camp we're discussing right now. That's wrong, that's immoral, that's anti-human. Sitting for the health of Americans, of the working class, and giving us cages. So why are we here discussing whether or not these human beings put in these concentration camps will get a larger cell? Do we look back at Auschwitz and say, maybe the prisoners need cleaner water? No, we say that terrible facility shouldn't have been built in the first place. So I don't know, or I know I don't wish to be put in a concentration camp, but I do wish for a better world. That's why I'm here, to speak out against this proposed camp and in favor of a better McCook, a better Nebraska, a better country, and a better world. And I imagine none of you want to be put in a concentration camp either. So would you do unto others what you want them to do to you? If the answer is yes, which I hope it is, then say no to building this concentration camp. Say no to terrorizing immigrants. Say no to billionaires and their assault on the working class. And say no to the system capitalism, which enables these atrocities. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator
Yeah,
Klaus?
Thank you, Senator McKinney. Just a clarification, Isaiah, and thank you for being here. I think what was closed at McCook was a satellite hospital in a smaller community.
That's still
It's still
technically
part
part
of
of
the system.
healthcare.
I get it.
Yeah.
It's not in. Thank you.
Thank you. Next testifier.
Hello again. My name is Magie Miller Jenkins, MAGHIE-MILLER-JENKINS. I've heard a lot of people talk about a lot of stuff, so I'm going to try to fill in some gaps that I didn't hear talk about. The name of the place trying to be taken over is the Work Ethics Camp. Do we know our history? Do we remember what the Germans called the places that they put the Jews? They called them the Work Ethics Camp. So when we're talking about building a new concentration camp, I would love it if we could change the narrative to the fact that there already is a concentration camp established there. The only difference is it houses Black and brown bodies currently that we call criminals. That's the only difference here. Now we're picking a new target. So the history of this country is just a rolling target. Who are we pointing the finger at now? Who are we othering now? Who are we going to abuse so that we can profit off of that abuse now? And that's what's happening here. We are just updating to 2025 what it looked like in 1934. I homeschool. My kids are learning real deep about Anne Frank. They had to do an assignment yesterday on if you could only pick 3 things, what would you have to pack? Can you guys empathize with how horrible it feels to teach my 12, my 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old what we could potentially have to face? Because I'm in an interracial marriage. Who knows when that becomes the next target, right? Because it's just a rolling one. It's immigrants now. It was women's rights. The first time I came and testified in this legislature was for a thing like this that Senator McKinney put forward. So on the record, thank you so much for continuously opening up spaces so that people can come and be heard and have the second house have a space to speak. So I really give you props and amends for all the efforts that you do to really make sure that you are engaging the public and giving them a space to be able to come and say these things. I love that all of you are here, but I really want us to think about the fact that we have not advanced very far and we are slipping back very quickly. We have not fixed any of the stuff that we broke. We have never done reparations for slavery. We have never apologized for the indigenous land that we're stealing. And I would love it if we could stop calling the indigenous Mexican people immigrants. The border crossed them. They didn't cross the border. We are on native land. We are on indigenous land. And for us to incarcerate these people and tell them that, hey, you traveling in a place that's ancestrally yours is against our colonizer rules is asinine, and it's a genocide. And we are just continually perpetuating the genocide here, and it ties directly to Palestine as well. They are using the same concentration camp tactics in Palestine that they are currently implementing in the United States and vice versa. These are all intersectionality versions of connection that I want us to be keeping in our forethought as we're going through and dealing with all of this stuff. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No, thank you. Next testifier.
Hello. My name is Deborah McKnight, DeBramcknight. I am here to read into record a letter that was signed by more than 100 clergy in Nebraska that represent more than 39 legislative districts in our state. As faith leaders across Nebraska serving in faith communities large and small, we are called to love our neighbor, welcome the stranger in our midst, and to care for the vulnerable. We write and speak today to urge you to reconsider the immigration detention facility planned in McCook. The planned ICE detention facility will tear families apart and increase fear in communities across Nebraska. We have grave moral concerns about the detention center and the tremendous harm it will cause. Our faith is rooted in a tradition that calls us to share our love of God and love of neighbor, serving those who are outcasts, who are socially marginalized and unacceptable, those who are the stranger, who are vulnerable and helpless. It is commanded again and again in the Hebrew Bible. Among God's commandments to the Israelites is this in Exodus: "You shall not wrong or oppress a resident alien, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. You shall not abuse the widow or the orphan. Do not abuse them. When they cry out to me, I will surely heed their cry." These words do not specify that this applies to only certain kinds of people, such as those who have legal authorization to remain in a community or became naturalized citizens. They apply to all people, all immigrants. The planned ICE detention center runs counter to these deeply held religious teachings. It violates the inherent worth and dignity of human beings, our neighbors, and our friends, and those who are created in the image and likeness of a sacred being. For those reasons, we ask you to respectfully reconsider the possibility of expanding ICE operations in this detention center and seek instead the welfare and investment in all Nebraskans, especially our immigrant siblings. And we give thanks for your time.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator Klaus?
Yeah, I have one, and it may not be that important, but was it all those pastors saying it was is it non-denominational or one particular?
No, there are Episcopalians, Methodists, Lutherans, non-denominational folk, Senator Roundtree, and so it's a diversity of faith voices from across the state, and you'll receive that in email as well with all the clergy names. It's also on Urban Abbey's Facebook with the names all listed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Raio Coran, Xixera Sucena, Xixera Pindorama, Xixera Tupinambá Patuxohanhai. I'm Manny, M-A-N-N-Y, Macero, M-A-C-E-D-O. I'm Tupinambá Patuxohanhai. I am indigenous. I am crazy enough. I also call an immigrant, even though my people have been doing this work to share corn for 20,000 years. And I just want to share some words. As an indigenous woman, I must speak clearly. ICE is doing violence on stolen land. Families are being ripped apart, children are being traumatized, communities are forced to live in fear. I wonder our agency that criminalizes the sacred act of migration. Nebraska calls itself the land of corn. And for our people, corn is more than food, it's sacred. Corn teaches us how to live in reciprocity, how roots deeply grow in community, and the shared evidence. To honor corn is to honor family, belonging. And so Nebraska has the moral obligation to live up to that teaching. Building and expanding an ICE facility in McCook betrays those values. It replaces nourishment with punishment, abundance with cages, belonging with separation. On this land where corn grows, we must remember our responsibility is to care for people, not criminalize them. It's to those family over fear, and to say no. No more cages, no more separations, no more violence in the name of borders. I've been in the US 15 years. I've been in Nebraska 2.5 years. I have, this summer, helped feed over 50 families for free by doing community gardens and sharing the crops throughout the community without charging anybody one thing. And I've seen people that look like me being criminalized. I don't understand why. If everything my people have done to people that have migrated to this land since 1500 was share food, ceremony, and love. And In reciprocity, we're throwing cages, we've been displaced, we've been erased. I feel like I'm the only Indigenous person in this building right now. And that is a testimony of what Nebraska is saying to me and my peers. And that hurts a lot because I have done nothing to this community but show love and care, because those are my teachings. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
Thank you for
No.
taking care of the poor and feeding. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gab Rima, spelled Gabrima. I represent a group called Strongly Worded Letters and a coalition of current and former University of Nebraska system students. We put out a letter that has been signed by nearly 600 current students and alumni of the University of Nebraska system, including former Cornhusker marching band members, Cornhusker cheerleaders, sorority presidents, and more. This is the letter. We, the undersigned students, faculty, staff, and alumni of the University of Nebraska system, oppose attempts by the Department of Homeland Security and our state government to co-opt our university's branding for the development of a cruel, regressive, and expensive immigration facility in McCook, Nebraska, nicknamed Cornhusker Clink. We oppose the use of the Nebraska National Guard and the Nebraska State Patrol to assist in immigration and customs enforcement. According to its mission statement, the University of Nebraska system exists to transform lives and communities in Nebraska and around the world. The 4 campuses of the university system bring unique strengths together to create an exceptional level of quality and impact through accessible and excellent education for diverse populations of students, research and creative activity that generates new knowledge, and service and engagement that enriches quality of life. This facility and the use of Nebraska law enforcement to increase ICE detentions in Nebraska directly contradict our university's mission to serve diverse populations. These actions hinder our ability to make global connections and undertake research that increases the quality of life in Nebraska. We have already seen this administration turn the target on our fellow Cornhuskers when they revoked the visas of international students. We have already absorbed the impact of cuts to important research at our university and our medical centers. Any attempts to use our University of Nebraska trademarks in association with this facility stand in direct opposition to the mission, values, and work of our university. As our universities face millions of dollars in budget cuts alongside countless other agencies and programs that Nebraskans rely on, we denounce the governor's consent to this collaboration as fiscally irresponsible and in direct opposition to our priorities and needs. This facility sacrifices Nebraska's autonomy to the will of a national agenda that is misaligned with the values of our state. We reject any and all attempts to brand this facility as something that Nebraskans want or need. These policies are designed to incite fear and harm our universities and our communities. Violent, regressive immigration enforcement has no place in our state. We stand firmly with our immigrant classmates, students, and neighbors in Nebraska. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Edward Iden Jenkins.
Can you spell your name?
EDWARDAIDYNJINKINS.
Thank you.
I'm going to be doing a reference to the book Mama, Do You Love Me? Because it just came off the top of my head. But this time, instead of saying, Mama, do you love me? I'm going to read, State, do you love me? State, do you love me? State, do you love me? No, I do not. Not at all, while children are burning on the state that is technically ours. How much? Over thousands and thousands of bodies. More bodies every day, running all the way through places that no one even talks about and at all, and the state tries to cover it up. How long will you hate me? For as long as forever, as long as bodies are burning, as long as we are helping bomb, as long as we are part of the Nazis. What if I tried to do a job that could help you out? I would still attack you with bombs, guns, and raids of armies. What if I put dead bodies on your name? What if I decided that I was going to try and bomb you back? Then I would bomb you, and I would send in armies with guns and knives to bring you down. What if I decided to try and throw a knife at you? I would dodge and attack back with more force than you tried to hurt me. What if I tried to attack you from a sneak army? Then I would ambush you before you would even open your eyes. How long will bodies be burning? Bodies will be burning for as long as our state has life, as long as our state is trying to attack everybody else. But I will always remember the hatred inside of me that will come for you one day. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Any questions for the committee? Senator Kavanaugh?
Thanks. I got a question for you, Edward.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing your perspective and standing up for folks in Nebraska. How old are you?
I'm currently 12, almost 12 and a half. This February, I'm going to be 13.
Well, I really appreciate you being here and giving us your perspective. Thanks.
Hello, Senators. My name is Whitney Gint. That's Whitney, last name Gent. And I want to say thank you, Senator McKinney, for opening up this opportunity for the people of this state to comment, to express their opinions about this facility. I know that it is a privilege to be able to testify. I have a flexible work schedule on Fridays to be able to be with you. I also don't have the kind of brown skin that would make it dangerous for me to be in a place like this. I want to note those things because I think that this room would be filled to overflowing of the people who would be most impacted if it were, in fact, safe and possible for them to testify before you. Instead, you get me. Today, I have two key reasons that I have come to speak against this detention center, and the first is directly in line with the charge of this committee. It's about authority and balance of powers. The Nebraska State Constitution gives this assembly all authority in the management and control of penal institutions. The governor does not have the power to unilaterally establish a federal detention center on Nebraska land, nor the authority to transform a penal institution for federal purposes, separation of powers between the state and federal government. When the Constitution of the state of Nebraska says it gives the governor supreme executive power, this does not mean the governor can do whatever he wants. If the governor were to have executive power over these state functions, the Constitution would have no need to attribute these tasks to the legislature. The executive branch's power in the state is checked by the legislative and judicial branches so that no one person can make decisions without consideration for the will of the people. And listening to testimony earlier today, it is quite clear that our assembly members do not have any of the answers to the questions that they need in order to make an informed decision in the first place. I think it is important that we talk about whose job it is to make these decisions. Second, I said that this check exists so that no one person can make decisions without consideration for the will of the people. And I think that it is very clear today that this is not the will of the people of the state of Nebraska. I have yet to hear any testimony in support of this plan. I want to talk in the time I have left about fear. I am a professor at University of Nebraska, Omaha. This testimony represents only my personal opinion and not that of the institution. But what I want to tell you is about fear in the hearts of my students who are here legally but have Latino heritage. I sat with one yesterday who cried with me in my office because he's afraid to talk on the phone with his mother in public because she speaks Spanish. She is a citizen of the United States. He is a citizen of the United States, and their family is terrified of what will happen to them. It is hard to educate people who are sitting in terror of their futures. And I could talk for hours about that, but I see that my time is up. So I simply want to say, this plan creates fear in the hearts of Nebraskans, and it should be rejected at all costs.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator Roundtree?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, ma'am, for what you do, and thank you for sharing this testimony today. So when you are having these one-on-one conversations and you see the fear, could you extrapolate just a bit more? How do you come to resolutions? What are some of the things that you share with your members?
Yes. I will say that my students share their fears because of the level of profiling that is happening on the federal level, specifically after the Supreme Court brief on Monday, which allowed them to be detained, be stopped without even reasonable cause. They fear for their families and they fear for themselves, and they are looking for safe places of authority to be able to talk about their concerns. So I see it as my job to educate them about where things are in the political process, but also to be a listening ear as someone with authority who is paid by the state of Nebraska to educate these students that can be a safe place where these concerns can be expressed.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next testifier?
Sorry to wear my hat inside. Hi, my name is Katrina Eilers, Eilers, and I'm a second-generation American. My grandfather, I have his Ellis Island record hanging on the wall. He was a Jewish man that lived in Germany. And when the government came around with green stars, he said something I cannot say in front of this committee, and he left. And America said, give me you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor. And then his son and his daughter joined the United States service. And I think we've already discussed how none of us want this Cornhusker clink. But more importantly, well, not more importantly, but importantly, I think is where I served at in Abu Ghraib, I was responsible for detainee healthcare. And I was given a Geneva Convention card when I was 18 years old that said, if you see something wrong, say it. If it feels wrong, it probably is. So if this feels wrong, guess what? It is. But I also want to know, I really want to know why these facilities are not covered under the Geneva Conventions. You know, that's a question that keeps me up at night. I deployed with numerous soldiers that were not citizens. And not once did I hear one say, this isn't my war. And there's veterans that have been deported. I cannot imagine the fear in a mother's heart to put everything she owns on her back and put her children and walk somewhere where they know they don't feel wanted by some people. I can't even imagine. But I do know in Iraq, when they came to visit, their families were allowed to visit literal terrorist prisoners. And I played with their kids and gave them backpacks full of school supplies and coloring books. Meanwhile, on American soil, we're separating them. And that is absolutely disgusting to me. And sometimes it makes me ashamed to wear this hat that you guys, not you guys, but the government is using my brothers and sisters that are still serving in the National Guard to do this. And I might be a transplant from California, but Nebraska's my home now. And this is not Nebraska nice. That's all I came to say. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
No? Next testifier?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. My name is Emily Sauter, Emily Sauter. And I'm a professor at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. I'm representing myself, not the university. Part of my job is to teach students argumentation. And what we talk about in class is policy, and that's your job. You're here to think about the policy implications and whether or not this is appropriate for our state. The two things I tell my students to think about are workability and desirability. The first question of workability you discussed earlier this morning, and it sounds like I would not give my students an A for that plan. There's no information, it sounds like, that is available to make a good informed decision. How many people can we hold humanely, safely? Is it appropriate for high-level detainees? Do we have high-level detainees? What is the condition that people will be in if they get sick? Will they have access to medical care? Who pays for medical care? These are all questions I would raise with my students if they brought this plan to me. And the second part is desirability. Part of policy is not just should we implement or can we implement policy, but should we implement policy? I think today we've heard quite a number of desirability arguments, and the answer is no. We should not implement this plan. We are attacking people who are victims of a system that has not allowed them to come here legally in many cases, people who have come here legally and are still being attacked. It has also put funds in places that Nebraskans do not seem to want it to be. We want healthcare, we want education, we want access to food and parks, not money that's put into detention. And finally, I'm not from Nebraska, I'm relatively new, but from what I've experienced, Nebraskans are welcoming to everyone and they want us all to live with dignity. This seems counter to those beliefs and that system that I've come to know in my short time here in Nebraska. Part of your job as representatives is to vote the will of the people. And I believe what we've seen here today is that it's not the will of the people. And I urge you to take that into consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Thank you. Next testifier.
Hi, my name is Kira Britt. I am a lifelong Nebraskan, and I'm here because this ICE detention center plan for McCook is incredibly worrisome to me. As it's been highlighted many times today, the building in question was not built to house 300 people, which makes me very scared that it's going to be incredibly overcrowded. According to the governor's own director of policy research, our state's prison system is at approximately 115% capacity. How will absorbing close to 200 inmates from this work camp into other facilities and opening a new detention center for 300 people not exacerbate this overcrowding issue and further strain our state's resources? Is anything being done to renovate this facility, to expand it? And even so, is that even enough to house an extra 200 people, more than it was originally designed to hold? I think it's safe to assume that this facility does not allow adequate space to prevent the spread of diseases. And we don't know if women will be housed separately from men or if children will be housed there. We don't know if there will be enough privacy for everyone or even enough beds. Kidnapping people and separating them from their families like this is already a barbaric thing to do. But the reasonable assumption of inhumane conditions within this facility sends a very dangerous message that immigrants can be treated as subhuman. A very dangerous message. And now the Supreme Court has just formally allowed ICE to racially profile people when making arrests in LA. What assurances are there that citizens and other people with lawful status will not end up illegally detained in this facility? Because it surely would not be the first time that it's happened in Nebraska. ICE is operating sloppily and carelessly, and it's putting even citizens in danger. Anyone who can think logically and critically should be able to see that detaining and deporting our friends, neighbors, classmates, coworkers, and family members who have no criminal convictions is not only cruel and dehumanizing, but it's also an incredibly ineffective solution to the quote-unquote immigration issue. I'd like to remind everyone that just 2 years ago, our governor signed a bill allowing special driver's licenses for recent Ukrainian refugees who needed to be able to drive to work to provide for their families. So wait a second, you mean instead of criminalizing the existence of people seeking refuge in our state, we can change policies to allow them to work and learn and grow their families here? That's fantastic. And there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't do the same for all otherwise lawfully abiding immigrants in our state, regardless of how they enter the country. And it's important to mention that refugees from Latin American countries are denied asylum at disproportionately high rates compared to refugees from European countries, despite them facing the same types of crises. And it can take decades for people's visa applications to be processed. When many people are not able to safely wait that long, we leave people no choice but to enter the country without legal authorization. I'll end with just saying that we need more policy reform to decriminalize the existence of immigrants who are just here to work and provide a better life for their families and who were here before white people were. So there's really no reason to call them immigrants, as it was mentioned earlier. This proposed detention center is lazy political posturing that won't address anything meaningful, but will cause immense harm. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you. Next testifier.
My name is Helen Newell, HelenNewell. I was born and raised here in Nebraska, the great-granddaughter of people who came here in a way that would be called illegal today before the start of immigration control via quota in 1924. I'm also a graduate of the George Washington University Elliott School of International Affairs, where I focused on trends in global democracies, particularly authoritarianism, and minored in history, focused on Europe from the French Revolution to current events. I'm here to simply put this on the record that once facilities are built, once our neighbors are detained, once they are all deported, history shows that the engine does not stop. The engine has already gone after students here on visas, documented workers this administration has called animals. And just yesterday, a wave of people who lead the movement that feeds this administration has declared war against the left, calling us animals for a thing that we did not do. After everyone is gone, will they close the facility, or will they find a new animal to detain indefinitely? History gives us that answer. ICE has also proven itself an unreliable partner, from detaining people for days in office buildings to the endless stories of ICE lies. For example, telling a family of an 82-year-old grandfather that he was dead when he was actually deported to Chile, a continent away from his native Guatemala. ICE has already overrun its budget multiple times, particularly this year by the millions of dollars. And a government shutdown is probably going to happen. It's imminent. If ICE promises to take on the cost of running Cornhusker Clink, can we really trust ICE that has such a deep history of these lies? Can we trust a contract that they give us? I really don't think that we can. We show the Trump administration has violated multiple court hearings and has tried to skirt them through many ways or just outright not following them. So I really don't think that a contract will mean very much.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you. Is there anyone else here to testify?
Good afternoon now. My name is Timothy C. Melcher, Timothy, C as in Clifford, M as in Mike, Elcher. And I'm here to say I do not support this facility. So I've been thinking long and hard as I've been listening to all the testimonies, and I think this is an intersection of three issues. I grew up in Madison County on a farm, and Madison has a very large Latino population. And I remember when I was growing up, my dad told me I better learn how to work, otherwise the Mexicans are going to take over. And I got to say the joke's on him because my daughter's Mexican, so I guess he was right. So the intersections here that I see are racism, fear-mongering of people with criminal histories, and policy issues. So I've addressed racism. And Senator McKinney, I know you're from North Dos, so I'm sure you have experience with the criminal fear-mongering. Just because you have a crime and you're dubbed a criminal does not make you a bad person. My mom got 6 DUIs one year when she had a mental health crisis and was locked up in New York for a year. She's a felon, she's a criminal, but that's not how I look at her. I look at her as a grandma to my Mexican daughter. So I think that ties into some of these issues that we're having today. And I know one of my cousins had talked about this guy with a bad rap sheet, and I looked at someone on here and I had to chuckle a little bit. So Karen Hernandez Medrano is a criminal illegal alien from Mexico convicted of alien smuggling. She's basically a Mexican Harriet Tubman. So Yeah, I feel like if we take a closer look at some of these things, we won't see it as a boogeyman. And the testifier ahead of me did address some of the policy issues. You know, if some of these people have petty crime, petty criminal histories, maybe it's making it harder for them to get into the country. Maybe they have this rap sheet because they were a delinquent teenager or something. You know, it could be a variety of issues. And I think we need to look at it from a different angle than how we are as locking them in this ICE facility. So that's all I had for you.
Thank you. Any questions? No, thank you. Is there anyone else here to testify?
Thank you for your patience. You guys must be just starving. This is a low chair. My name is Suzanne King, and I bring a perspective I don't think you've heard today. I've intentionally stayed almost to the end because I was waiting to hear something I have not heard today, and that's a proponent. I have not heard anybody speak in favor of this, and I am not either. I volunteer at NDCS facilities. I have been to every prison as a volunteer except for Tecumseh and WEC. I have spent hours and hours. I was at work release last night. The people that are affected by this are my friends. They're friends on staff. They're friends who are incarcerated. They are friends who are back in the community. And my perspective is, I'm going to read a little bit. I don't like reading to people. I like talking to them. I invite you to consider the impact of this decision on WEC on the incarcerated population, which is a very marginalized group who is rarely lifted up. Already the most overcrowded prison system in the country, Nebraska Department of Correctional Services, is now tasked with finding additional beds in the other 6 male facilities for 187. I think that number has gone down since I wrote this. I think it's down to 140 now. Citizens who are housed at WEC. Couple this with the August storms that blew the roofs off of the NSP housing units, leaving those units inhabitable for 387 men who are housed there. Collectively, this is 587 individuals that need to be housed in the remaining facilities. That's nearly 10% of the population that we are now going to find housing for. And my perspective from the staff, their job is very hard. I watched, I'm just going to leave the rest of this off. At work release in Omaha in July, they had a 10% turnover, 20% turnover in the population in 1 month. Now, if I'm staff, I can't imagine, and I tried to introduce this to my men and they were like, we have no empathy for them. So I see both sides. Learning 20% of the people's names, new people, teaching them what to do, how to do it. And so I think that this decision is not good for the incarcerated population. It's not good for the staff. And when you put those two together, you have a combustible combination. And you have a combustible combination, people get hurt. And who pays for the incarcerated people that are hurt, or the staff? The state does. So this is also a financial liability for the state to have to cover damages that are caused. And the solution to the NSP, and they had to do something when the roof blew off, they put them in unsafe housing. What happens if we have another natural disaster like that? We have no place left to house new people. And my last comment, because my time's up, Pillen has committed himself to the reentry 2030, and I haven't heard anybody mention that today. And there seems very difficult. And the 5 keys, which I'm learning, I don't know how we achieve those goals by overcrowding our prisons more than we already have. So thank you for this, and thank you for your time, your volunteer service, because by the end of January, you, like the citizens, the incarcerated citizens, haven't had a raise for 40 years, and you're all volunteers by the end of January.
Thank you. Any questions?
Say thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to testify?
right. Hello. I'm Joanna Kalel, JoannaCalel. I'm here to speak on behalf of the people that look like me and tell our story. People like me who were raised by immigrants. So I'm going to read to you a poem that I wrote sitting at the desk at Lincoln High School, my alma mater, where I graduated from the IB program, then went on to UNL. But yeah, I'll read you a story about who we are. Because I believe that this is happening because of a lack of understanding of who we are and our story. So I was raised by immigrants, and long nights spent lazing around a glowing TV, the sound of laughter filling in the cracks in old plaster walls, Spanish being spoken so quickly even I have trouble understanding. There's no need for garbled English or the sense of not belonging. It's just two immigrants and their children. But to some, perhaps to you, it's not just two immigrants. It's two outsiders who would rather set themselves back by not properly speaking a language that they need. It's two people who don't belong and never will. But that's not who I was raised by. I was raised by people who'd rather stay true to themselves and their culture than change for the notion of acceptance in a place where no matter what they do, they'll end up condemned for one thing or another. Those type of immigrants. They're 50-year-olds whose life has been lived here in Nebraska. I was raised by the hungry who couldn't stand the idea of their children needing everything and having nothing. They prayed to God and asked for more, not for themselves, but for their children. They said, "You'll never have to know what it's like to have nothing when you need everything." My mother, who was 19 with only cents in her pocket and a baby nestled in her stomach, left the only place she knew. My father, with only a bag full of clothes and the weight of two starving children on the back of his mind, went on a way towards a chance at survival. Who, even after decades of living here in Nebraska, still hopes to see the sun rising over the mango trees. My parents have not sacrificed sleep, have not let their dignity be shattered over and over again just to be told that they are the criminals in this nation. Instead, they've raised a daughter who can proudly say she is first-generation American and that her parents have taught her well. And I'd like to think that their efforts paid off, that every scar littering their hands is not worthless because every day I get to accomplish something that they never got to do. My parents are living and breathing examples that being a minority can weigh on you with their graying hair, muscles weakened by the thread of hope that they so desperately hang on to. Don't stop dreaming, sort of people. I was raised by those kinds of immigrants.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you. Any other testifiers?
Hello, and thank you so much for your time and your patience and sticking around. My name is Catherine Ladd, Kathryn, last name L-A-D as in dog, D as in dog. And I am here representing myself as a lifelong Omahan, a South Omaha constituent, and a licensed independent clinical social worker and mental health therapist. Just wanted to include a very special thank you to Senator McKinney for your efforts in making this opportunity possible, not just for Nebraskans to speak to this committee and members of the legislature who chose to show up, but also making that attempt to speak with and to Governor Pillen himself, who chose not to be here. This summer on June 10th, to be specific, my life changed as I watched my community be ripped apart by mass raids, one occurring 1 block from my workplace and scattered throughout the blocks of my residential neighborhood. I provided crisis counseling to several community members who were imminently afraid for the safety of their children and their families. The resulting information I learned after the fact was that several human rights had not only been violated, as ICE carefully detained and blocked detainees from access to legal counsel and even their own families who didn't know where they were. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I strongly urge the governor and all government officials and all legislators of our great state not to proceed with the hasty conversion of an immigration concentration detention camp in McCook, Nebraska. This is not a humane, feasible, or sustainable option to improve the state of our state and our community. It is motivated solely by our fascist governor, Pillen, seeking political favors for selfish gains. It is not only violating multiple safety codes and capacity regulations, it is more broadly and more importantly inhumane and unjust. Furthermore, I will not tolerate any more ignoring of the rules and ignoring of the voice of the people by this administration and our governor. We have been pushed too far. This is my home, and there is no room for hate in my state, my community, my workplace, or my home. This is not the state I want to raise my child in. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to testify? No, but before I come up, oh, okay. Oh, sorry. No problem.
Good afternoon. It is afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Chairman McKinney, Vice Chair Klaus, for setting this hearing up. My name is Chloe Fowler, CHLOEFOWLER, and I am here on behalf of my role as president of the Nebraska Young Democrats to discuss a little bit about our position regarding the work ethic camp in McCook. So the proposal to convert the work ethic camp in McCook into an ICE detention facility is extremely troubling for several reasons, and I'm just going to outline very briefly some of the points that have been discussed by us as Young Dems with relation to this. First off, Nebraska should not be in the position of separating families. Turning this facility into an immigration jail means more children growing up without their parents, more trauma inflicted on families, and lasting harm to communities. And this is harm that we as a state ought to reject. This, in my personal capacity and professional capacity, work as a child welfare policy analyst for the Children's Commission. I do not represent them, and I'm not here testifying on behalf of them, but in my personal capacity, this is a very troubling thing that I see time and time again across reports, is the separation and harm that come from splitting families. Secondly, the work ethic camp itself is not suitable. It's not a suitable facility for this purpose. Reports about its infrastructure already raise significant concerns about the adequacy of living conditions. Simply retrofitting an outdated correctional style building into an ICE jail does not meet the basic standards of dignity and safety. We cannot pretend that renovations or superficial changes will turn this into a humane place for people to be held. And finally, the Nebraska Young Democrats believe that our communities deserve policies that are rooted in common sense and compassion, not fear and division. Rather than investing in a system that locks up immigrants in our own, we should be working towards keeping families together and expanding opportunities for people to contribute fully to our state and to our economy. A lot of these families that will be, illegally held and captured here, they pay taxes, they contribute so much to our state economy and to the well-being of Nebraska. And finally, just on behalf of young Nebraskans across the state, I urge you to continue doing what you're all doing with pushing back against the governor and asking for more accountability and answers. Our generation is clear that Nebraska should not profit from detaining immigrants and families, and nor should we align our future with policies that divide families and harm our neighbors. I'm here to answer any questions, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions? No.
Well,
Thank
thanks. I'll get this form filled out and over to you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else here to testify? Okay, well, for the record, there were 73 proponent comments. Oh, well, never mind. The total comments were 654 comments. And I know there was some confusion. People, because I was getting some emails where people were saying which way to testify. So I know people testified of two different ways. And because it's an interim study, we don't have opponents or proponents. So bear with us on that. The online system doesn't account for that currently, but that's something we'll probably discuss as a body later on. But again, I'll close and move on. All right. First, I would like to thank everybody that came to testify today, and as well as the committee members who stuck with us and But I'll point you back to Senator Bosan's letter, which to me counters the governor's position. She stated that the Judiciary Committee did not have special authority, or anyone for that instance in this body had special authority to call these such hearings or have these conversations. So, oh wow, it got loud. But what I'm saying is, who's right here? If the Judiciary Committee cannot call a hearing to look at building codes and potential capacity issues at this facility because of building code violations, then is it the Judiciary Committee? But the committee chair said the Judiciary doesn't have a special authority. So if it's not the Judiciary Committee, is it the exec board? Or is it even the legislature, for instance? Or is it the fact that the administration feels like they have full autonomy to do as they please and we just have to deal with it? Because that's what I read and that's how I feel. Because constitutionally, the Constitution is clear and the jurisdictions of these committees isn't statutory. I sit on exec board, I sit through referencing, and I've seen how bills get referenced. The jurisdiction thing honestly doesn't matter. It's really about who wants something to go where. Let's just be honest about it. So that's my issue. So I'll do my job and reach out to Senator Bosan. I'll reach out again to the governor's office, but I'm not having a private briefing. If they want to talk to me, they could talk to me in front of the people. So that's that. So thank you.
Am I supposed to close? Thank you, Senator McKinney. And I've got another one. I think Sally, don't we both have another one we have to go to? So all right. I don't have anything else unless you do, Senator.
I don't have anything else. Just we appreciate having a briefing today.
Yeah, just we all know there's more questions than answers. That's pretty obvious.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this closes our open hearing.
Pardon?
If you can say that we will close the Closing Affairs Committee now.
He will.
You can.
Okay. Okay. Thanks everyone for attending. The ones that are left. That's been a lot of good commentary and a lot of good information shared. And so the hearing is officially closed at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.